never mind. I have to hit go live. There we go. Now we should be live. It's just a matter of getting everyone back in the chat. And are you seeing it good?
Says it will begin in 2 minutes. Minute and a half.
That's weird. I hit it to start at 2:25 or 3:25. And it's showing live. So yeah, it looks like it was internet thing. I pulled up a speed test while it was giving us issues, and I'm getting like generally I think right now I'm paying for I know I'm paying for a gig speed basically.
Yeah.
And I was getting like normally I get like 600 to 800, which is a little bit low, but whatever. And when I went and did it while we were crashing there, it was getting like 6 megabytes per second.
Oh, good Lord.
So, yeah, way slow. So something happened with my ISP and crashes. So anyone that's on the, I guess, listening in the future, hopefully you will have jumped over to this video. Unfortunately, we had to completely kill that previous stream where we started the first part of the show. So this rest of the show will be on a new stream. And I think that was just a disconnect that happened after the internet kind of crashed. So, yeah, we're going to have to. So we covered most of the article of the first article here talking about the if it bleeds being moved forward. But now we'll go ahead and finish up the last little chunk of this article and then finish the rest of the way. Hopefully everyone else that was in the chat can find us again with the new thing, with the new room here, I suppose. Yeah, so sorry about the technical issues. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. The rest of this article here says the title story takes place in the near future of January 2021. Detective Ralph Anderson receives a mysterious padded envelope. Inside the package is a flash drive containing an audio report from fellow detective Holly Gibney. Gibney and Anderson worked together on a harrowing case that stretched from Oklahoma to a cave in Texas. The investigation permanently altered Anderson's understanding of what is real. Now comes this haunting recorded message from his partner, a message that imparts a chilling warning. So, and I believe we've kind of heard that from some of the teaser material in the past. So just kind of an idea what it is. So I remember I did text you and let you know that it was out, and you said you got it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you started it yet?
No, I was still. I'm right at the good part of Wizard and Glass, so it's hard to. It's hard to walk away from Cuthbert punching Roland. So, really from there, the story really does pick up for Wizard and Glass. It's just the little bit that I am getting to listen to it, like when I do laundry, when I'm coming over here, if I'm driving by myself to like the grocery store or something.
Yeah.
It's hard not to instantly turn on Wizard and Glass because it's just such a
good,
spot.
I mean, I'm in the same boat. I bought If It Bleeds, but I'm right in the middle. Well, I'm 2/3 of the way through Everything's Eventual, so I want to finish that, and then I'll jump over to If It Bleeds. So, yeah, I'm with you. I haven't started it yet, but it is out, and it is in my queue.
It's going to be really hard for me to finish Wizard and Glass and not jump into my favorite book in the series.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're in the middle of a Dark Tower cycle, I can definitely see why. And for me, I'm looking at it as I want to finish Everything's Eventual, then I'll read this one, and that's probably going to put me right about the time for a Stand reread. So that's that's kind of where my mind is at. So I'll finish Everything's Eventual, maybe even this weekend, throw it on while I'm playing a game or whatever. Sometimes I'll do that, but that's kind of my hope is do that, then If It Bleeds, and then on into the Stand. I think that's
Chris made it
fitting.
back. Mark is here.
Oh, how's it going, Mark?
Alan's
here. Chris. All right, awesome. Yeah, sorry guys. I think my internet provider completely crapped the bed there. Normally I get, like I was telling Peter, I upgraded my speeds a few episodes back. I remember mentioning it, and we were. I think normally I gauge right around 600 to 800 megabits per second. And when I just checked it when we were crashing, it was coming up at 6 megabytes per second, not 60 or 600, but 6. So yeah, I think my ISP completely shit the bed and kind of screwed us over there. So glad everyone made it back. Yeah, Chris, I actually just finished Everything's Eventual. And then it's interesting. So I had it in my odds and ends, but I'll just go ahead and talk about it now. First of all, Peter, I think I've already told you got to get on that one. Maybe put it toward the top of your list.
Everything's Eventual.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. I got 3 credits to spend.
So yeah, I've listened to it. I'll just tip the hand a little bit and tell you that the titular story, as Chris is referring to, has one Dinky Earnshaw as the main character.
Oh yeah.
So between that and Little Sisters of Illyria, Dark Tower short story, it's pretty much a pretty good 1-2 punch for Dark Tower fans. I think it's definitely a must read. And there's
everything is eventual.
Everything's eventual.
Oh, everything's.
Yeah. There's some other good stuff too. There's some other stories in there that have been really good. There's one in particular that didn't scratch my itch as much, but like it was still entertaining. And then here's an odd one. The one that came right after Everything's Eventual in line was I'm blanking on the name of it. Someone's Theory on Pets, and it's read by Stephen King. But here's the odd one for you. It's read in front of a live audience.
Really?
At like a festival or conference or something.
Huh.
And I was just like, I don't know if I've ever heard this is a short story, obviously, not like a book, but have you ever, like, in the sense of like an audible, I've seen a podcast that'll do it like with an audience.
Yeah.
But I was like, it was really interesting because like with certain lines, the audience laughs and, like whatever, just hearing the reaction, it's like, this is really interesting. And then it's King himself doing it. And I was just like, I don't know if I've ever experienced a story being told in this way. Like,
that's really weird to think about with like an audiobook.
Yeah, but it worked. It really did work. Chris, the road virus heads north. I actually just started that. I'm probably not more than a paragraph into it. I went and grabbed some food today as I was doing final prep on the show and listened to that and finished the Theory of Pets and then started that one, but I didn't get much into it yet. So still very fresh into that one. But no, overall, but with those 2 books, plus there's one early on, I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's actually probably, I don't know, it's high up there for me for short stories. It was really good. Really good, scary one.
Ooh,
so yeah,
I just went and got it on Audible.
Okay.
I just, like I said, I was telling this before. I don't know if it was in like the pre-show or like right when we went live. The first time was I have 3 credits. Tomorrow I'll have my 3rd credit, so I have 2 right now. And then there's no reason to keep my Audible going right now. I'm just not listening enough, so I'm going to suspend it until I get back, to a commute and everything like that, and listening more and more.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, you have to spend those credits before you suspend your account. Otherwise, you just lose them.
Yeah.
So I just went and got Everything's Eventual. I got If It Bleeds.
Okay.
And so I'm open to 2 more suggestions, guys.
So here's what I'm going to tell you too.
Yeah.
When you're done with book 4, I think you should read Everything's Eventual.
Instead of If It Bleeds?
Well, just to prep. I'm saying before you go through the rest of the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, not that it's like.
Oh no! I'm gonna jump on the new book
because then
that's what I was thinking.
Then when Dinky shows up, you'll have a little bit more context.
That's a very good point. I like that.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking to myself. Yeah, Peter, Chris is currently listening to The Monkey.
No, from Creepshow. It's off of a short story.
I don't know, but I love the sound of it.
No,
The Monkey.
No.
Yeah. Let's see. And then Ryan said King should write more Roland one-offs like Little Sisters. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really odd because it was a different narrator. It wasn't. We talked about it. Wasn't it? No, it was on Twitter. I'm sorry. So on Twitter, somebody brought up, Frank versus George. Like, who do you got? Type thing, and it was a big conversation with a whole group of us on there, and so just having that conversation, and like for me, I love them both, and I really feel that like just as kind of a side tangent here to get into that conversation a tiny bit, I love Frank. I love Frank for 2, 3, and 4, but I think George's voice is just very good for kind of that weirdness of book 1. I think, like, honestly, if it came down to where like I wanted to download, like if I could find the old Frank version that was the non-altered version of the book 1, I'd probably listen to it here and there, but like overall I'd probably choose George's because I just feel like his voice feels perfect for like that weird vibe of the first book. And I really think that like as you move further in Midworld, closer to the tower, it gets weirder, so I feel like it kind of fits George to have the voice there. But yeah, listening to Little Sisters and having a completely different voice was a strange one for me.
No,
in general. I mean, of course, then you have King doing went through the keyhole. Went through the keyhole, and I think he's also done. That got mentioned on Twitter as well. That on YouTube, there's a version of the first book being read by King. I believe it is the first book. So yeah, there's kind of some variance on readers, but yeah, it was interesting to hear a whole different take on like Roland and Court enters Roland's mind at one point. So it's like hearing another narrator, read Court. It's like, oh man, that's weird.
It's really funny how much the Dark Tower influences my life. My wife just texted me. They're having a girls' night because I'm not home, obviously. Painting nails and watching a old Disney movie that I don't think my daughter's ever seen before. I think they're watching Alice in Wonderland. And she just texted me because there's a group that we watch that has a guy named Blaine. And she just texted me out of the blue while I'm recording with you about Dark Tower. Is Blaine immortal? And I'm like, no, he's not. And he killed him.
Yes, he did.
Not who she's talking about, but it's just funny how those kinds of things happen. Where you ever hear the name Roland and you're just like, Deshane?
Yeah.
Every time I hear the name Roland, Deshane?
Now, Chris is definitely getting my interest here, and he says there is a version of Little Sisters read by Frank Muller.
Yeah. Tad's looking right now for it.
Yeah, I already did, but I'm definitely not going to dive too deep into it because we have a show to record here. But yeah, definitely would have to look into that. But no, it's been good so far, so I'm looking forward to finishing that and then going If It Bleeds. And then The Stand, I think, is kind of my game plan. But yeah, I think you should read Everything's Eventual. I think you'd enjoy it. I feel like it would. I do recall some people bringing that short story up when we were talking about the Institute, and I can definitely see why. Like, there's some things in there that's like, oh yeah, like this feels very like
Institute
for me, the Institute, because the Institute came first for me. Like I read the Institute before I read this, but of course it's reversed in reality. But
isn't it funny how it does that sometimes? Where you like, everyone's like, oh yeah, this has a lot of references to The Stand. It's like, no, The Stand has a lot of references to Dark Tower. Like, that's not how it goes. You have it flipped, sir.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we have a fun little article here. How Dr. Sleep recreated The Shining's Overlook Hotel. And it was actually interesting because I was seeing some on Twitter where somebody mentioned one of the entertainment people on my private Twitter that I follow was talking about how basically she was brought to tears when her and a group of of reporters were brought on set for Dr. Sleep and were brought to the Colorado room and to be in that room. And I was just like, you know what? Okay, the Millennium Falcon's pretty cool. You know, at Star Wars land and stuff, right? But honestly, if I had a choice between recreating the entirety of the set from The Shining 1980 movie or the Millennium Falcon, I'm probably picking The Shining.
Well, what about something you like more in Star Wars than the Millennium Falcon? What about?
Well, no, it's not even just that. I just feel like for me, like it's just like it's so like the Overlook's so iconic, and just to be able to like go into that room and look at that little maze, or you know what, I just feel like that'd be a killer thing for Warner Brothers to do, is to actually build. You know, whether it's the full hotel or whether it's just like, you know, here's a full size 1-to-1 scale of the Colorado room. Here's the room 217. Here's, you know, whatever, like or 237. Book 237 is still, all the years watching it just doesn't feel right to me. 217 is is more natural. But all those things, I just feel like it'd be really cool, you know, to go up those hallways and stuff. Like, I don't know. I think that'd be really cool. So it was kind of cool.
The room where Jack plays catch with himself off the wall, where he's riding.
That Colorado room.
Is that what that's called? Is the Colorado? Oh, yeah. Okay. I was mistaking it for a different room.
Yeah. No, so that one, like the typewriter room and the staircase
with the give me the bat.
Yeah, give me that.
Give me the bat. Give me the bat.
I mean, I think you're getting into The Simpsons.
Oh, I am. I can't help it. It's the shinning.
But no, so that was in my head fresh, and then I saw this when I was doing show prep. I thought it was kind of cool to see the behind the scenes of this, and it's by Michael Kennedy from Screen Rant on April 6, 2020. It says Dr. Sleep's director Mike Flanagan was faced with the task of recreating The Shining's iconic Overlook Hotel, and here's how he did it. Luckily for director Mike Flanagan, he came into recreating the Overlook Hotel into Dr. Sleep with a secret weapon. Flanagan was able to obtain the original blueprints for The Shining director Stanley Kubrick that he used to construct the Overlook interior back in 1978. So Warner Brothers still had the blueprints on hand that they used to build all those sets.
Oh, wow.
So that's a silver bullet that would help you build them, pretty damn close to what was on screen before. It says the blueprints were still in possession of Warner Brothers, the studio behind both Stephen King adaptations. This ensured that Flanagan could have his Overlook Hotel set built to the exact same specifications once approved by Kubrick. Beyond rebuilding the different areas of The Shining's Overlook Hotel, Flanagan also studied Kubrick's film frame by frame in an effort to make sure that every single object and detail visible in each room was included in the recreation. Which is, to me, like, that's like a next level type thing, like
frame by frame.
Yeah, going frame by frame to make sure that, like, a picture frame is right, or
the picture in the picture frame.
Yeah, exactly, like all these things.
Yeah, because it would be very easy for it to have a picture, but not be the right picture.
Yeah, exactly. So then it says Flanagan set out to obtain every book, every framed photograph, every possible thing seen in The Shining's Overlook that he could duplicate in an effort to make the viewing experience between the two films seamless and not to take the viewers out of the story. And I think that's really at the heart of it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not just like him being like a crazy artist that wants like whatever. Like, it really is because, like, honestly, there is going to be more iconic stuff. Maybe like the Bates mansion or the Bates house. But, like, I would question, find me a more iconic thing that, like, in horror especially, in terms of location, like, people know it. People have seen, we've had that ingrained in our mind for 40 years. Like, we know every frame of that film. Whether we're going through and studying it like Flanagan did or not, we've all watched it so many times that, like, one
of the things with it that I think plays a part of it is that it's not a movie that ended up with a sequel until 2019. There is no diluting the original into others, because that's the thing is, like, I was just going through my head. You're like, what's more iconic than that? And I'm like, okay, well, let's go through.
For horror,
let's go through horror and let's list iconic things for each franchise.
But not even
what would you do for Halloween?
But even location, locations.
There's no location because it changes.
Yeah, like the Myers house has been portrayed by at least 4 or 5 different houses
over the course of the franchise.
Yeah,
Friday the 13th. There's like 4 or 5 different Camp Crystal Lakes. Which one are we gonna talk about? Which one should we go visit if we're a huge fan of Jason?
Yeah,
Nightmare on Elm Street. Sets built there. They didn't use real houses. Like, they use locations and stuff, but for the most part, most of that was done on set, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So Jaws. Okay, you could go visit the beach where, the kid got attacked, or something like that.
Yeah.
The Exorcist. Set. And then the stairs.
The stairs would be...
I think the stairs are the closest thing that we have. But that's a set of stairs.
And it's real. That's a real set of stairs.
Yeah.
Like, you can go visit it still today.
That's a set of stairs that doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the movie. It's 2 or 3 scenes in the entire movie.
Yeah.
When you can go visit the set of The Shining.
Yeah. But, like is it whichever lot it is, I'm probably kind of in the studio now, but the one lot has the Psycho house.
Yeah,
that was built like the above the motel, like that was really built and stuff, and it's still there. So it's like, okay, you can call that maybe as iconic, but like, you don't spend that much time in the house. You get like that opening portion, the upstairs portion in the mom's room, and then like the basement. But like, I guess so. Maybe you could say but I just don't think that the Hitchcock didn't focus on the areas as much.
If you opened up the 2 and charged $5 a piece to get in and visit, the layout that they did for Dr. Sleep, which is an exact replica of the Shining set, or the Bates Motel, I guarantee the Shining Hotel, the Overlook Hotel, would blow it out of the water.
Yeah, and I think that maybe if you want to say Psycho, you can maybe even say the motel itself, and that would actually maybe be more of a competition. Somebody
like the shower and everything,
the room with the birds and stuff, and then like the peephole in the shower, and like, okay, that's iconic. That is probably the biggest competition for the Overlook, is probably the Bates Motel itself, not necessarily the house. But yeah, it is one of those things that, like, I just feel like, I don't know, like, in this day and age where people are designing things or whatever, there's just part of me that's like, man, if I was Warner Brothers, make a real Overlook that does it incorporates as much of Kubrick stuff as you can, and maybe make it a fully functioning hotel. And
a themed hotel,
and if you could even go even further and make it look like that on the outside, like we have up on the screen, which I know is hard because you got sets versus a real exterior.
And this is the one that's actually in Colorado, right? Oh no, this is the one in Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon. Yeah.
So there's the one in Colorado that inspired the story where King was staying in room 217, right? Which is not
237.
237.
Yeah.
Which is not that hotel.
Yeah.
The outside shots for the Overlook were done with that hotel in Oregon.
In Oregon, and all the interiors was on a set in England, I believe.
Where Kubrick had the sets built, which is what they used for Dr. Sleep, is those original plans. That's
for
what
that
you're saying.
set. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. So yeah, I just think that it's I mean, and I think here in the chat, I saw that I glanced over and saw that Chris mentioned Dr. Sleep is absolutely next level. Probably one of my favorite, probably is my favorite King adaptation. And honestly, I think I might agree. In terms, I definitely agree that it's next level. But in terms of like ranking it as all-time King adaptation, it might have that crown because yeah, you can look at something like Shawshank that's probably a better movie, but does Shawshank exist as heavily on King's side before the movie, or did the movie help elevate it? Same with like The Body, right? Into Stand By Me. Like,
right.
So I feel like some of these are elevated heavily by the iconic, movies that came from them. Whereas like, I don't know, The Shining and like Dr. Sleep, like all of that combined, and I don't know. I think Flanagan.
I think he
killed it.
I think that's where it gets a little bit unfair, is because I think that no matter how good Dr. Sleep is, part of the allure of it is The Shining. So it's getting credit for something that it's a sequel to, So I wouldn't call it like the best how do you quantify the best adaptation? Because there's different ways you could look at it.
It depends on how you want to look at it.
Most true to the source material?
Most true to the source material.
Or the best movie
or
based
best
off
result.
Yeah, exactly.
Best result.
There's different ways you could look at it.
I think you gotta go best result because honestly, I feel like there's like I know it's on adaptation, but like let's look at like 1998 Psycho, that horrid remake. I feel like that's kind of like it has no soul. Like when you watch that, it's just like. It's just bad. It's just there's no soul to it. There's no artistic anything. All they're doing is look, we're going to recreate Psycho. And I feel like honestly, that's the way because I feel like I've seen some book adaptations that have painstakingly tried to stay true to the book, and it just it loses a lot because there's certain elements of books that are different than movies. They're different art forms, so I feel like you can't force them together. You got to I don't know. For me, I look at output. I know some people are way more into staying true to the book, but
no, and that's the thing is I think that for me it's a balance. See, that's the thing why I don't hold what The Shining did against it, because The Shining movie is still just God, it's such a good movie. The story of The Shining, the book, is also so good.
Yeah.
You actually brought this question to my mind, and I'm going to ask it now. I was going to save it for later, but I think it fits the conversation that we're having now.
Go on.
And I want you to think about this before you answer. So I don't want an instant reaction answer. 'Cause I don't think it's going to be correct if you do. Which novel story? I'm going to allow short stories. Which novel or short story plus adaptation is the best combo?
I mean, I think The Shining, because like you're talking one of the greatest horror movies of all time, and the book itself is one of the greatest horror novels of all time. I mean, it's top shelf for King's works too. I mean, yeah, I can't. I think that's going to be The Shining. Overall, I mean, because I mean. There's some people that would argue The Shining. Like when you're talking like greatest horror movies of all time, I feel like people are going to say The Shining. People are going to say The Thing,
The Exorcist.
The Exorcist. Like there's going to be certain ones that come up, but I feel like Doctor Sleep. I feel like The Shining is going to come up every time in that conversation at least. Like whereas like I don't know, but. I think it is because like I would say like Dr. Sleep does come to mind a little bit, but I would say that I think Flanagan did better with Dr. Sleep than King did. I feel like King's like his way of doing it with the Overlook not being there, which I know makes sense because of the way the Shining book was. I feel like that is not as good as what Flanagan did. But again,
having I just totally spaced on his name, not Jack, the son.
No,
Danny. Having Danny be able to converse with his parents in the film was off the charts.
But also
unreal.
also having the hotel there.
Oh yeah,
You know, like I feel like even when I read Doctor Sleep for the first time, there's part of me that's like, okay, cool, like
they're at the campground.
It's at the grounds where the Overlook stood, but like there's just something unremarkable about that. And like,
how much better would it have been in the book if the Overlook was there but like slightly damaged? Like it didn't explode, but like, you know, there was a fire that killed Jack.
Yeah.
You know, like he got the pressure down. And he's like, oh, thank God. But then, like, something happened and he died, you know?
Yeah.
And that final scene, instead of taking place over a cliff, takes place inside on a top floor, you know, up out one of these windows or something. And that's where it happens, you know? Not just on some platform that, you know, was near the grounds of the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah.
The one that came to my mind when I asked this question in my head was instantly The Shining.
Yeah.
Instantly The Shining.
I think
the thing for me with The Shining is, again, I just said it. Kubrick's movie is great. But there's a disconnect there between the book and the movie that I think drives a wedge in to open up the conversation to others. And for me, dude, after reading it, I don't think that I could go away from Pet Sematary. The original Pet Sematary movie.
Okay, did you watch that then?
I watched it before.
Okay.
The original Pet Sematary movie, even the newer one was good too.
Yeah.
I liked it. A lot of people didn't. I liked it. But the original Pet Sematary movie and the original Pet Sematary novel. Damn, dude, I don't know if there's a more psychological mindfuck that my brain has gone through, except for maybe the practical joke that you played on me that one time. That seriously, both of those together, I think, go hand in hand. And honestly, one that I feel that is highly underrated, dude, The Stand and The Stand miniseries, and I got a feeling that Josh Boones is going to elevate this conversation.
Yeah.
Give it a year or two. Dude, The Stand is such a damn fine novel.
Yeah.
It's such a great novel. And even The Stand miniseries, for what it was, I mean, dude, it's a 90s production, and it was still way better than what was coming out around its time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, and I was trying to debate through some of the different options in my head, but I feel like, yeah, for me, it would probably be The Shining, because, like, you are talking about both sides. You know, they may not jive together, but both of them are absolute all-time greats in their respective fields. And then I think that's the beauty of Dr. Sleep, is that Dr. Sleep has repaired that void that has existed between the two for the longest time.
It's bridged that
gap. And I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of my deep love for this movie comes from the fact that it did that. You know, that it did finally kind of heal that chasm between the two things, to where now I feel like The Shining book, The Shining movie don't have that gap between them anymore, you know, because of Dr. Sleep and because Mike Flanagan. So I got to give him uber credit for that.
Dr. Sleep's in the conversation too, because the book was phenomenal. I loved the book. The movie, like you said, was amazing too. Just fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and then the bridge in the gap between The Shining, that's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that. That gives it just like that extra, you know, like, here's a gold star, you know, for that.
Yeah. And it's one of those ones that, like, you know, it was kind of the impossible. You're asking the impossible of Flanagan to make a sequel to The Shining, you know, even though the book existed. And I just think that not only to make a great movie, a great movie, but then also to be able to heal that void between King and, you know, Kubrick is huge. So, and then it goes. Let me just finish off what this says here. The results of the painstaking efforts can be seen throughout the final act of Dr. Sleep and in some early scenes with the child Danny Torrance. It is truly impressive piece of work, and another reason Dr. Sleep deserves to expand its audience in years to come, which I hope does happen, because much like The Shining, Dr. Sleep didn't necessarily have the best reaction from audiences. So hopefully, much like The Shining, in years to come and decades to come, people will be able to go and discover Dr. Sleep. And I'm expecting 15, 20 years from now, we'll be seeing plenty of articles of like, oh my God, you know, I missed this movie, and like, you need to watch it because it's fucking incredible.
Before we get too far away from it, I have to go back to what Jack asked in the chat.
Okay, I may have missed it.
You said Millennium Falcon or the Overlook.
Yeah.
What about a completely redone Cyberdyne Systems building over the Overlook?
Cyberdyne. So the building they blow up?
Yeah, Cyberdyne, where you could like go in and see like the hand in its case and the microchip and everything. Dyson would be there.
I mean,
Have like Cyberdyne little consoles that could give you like history tidbits there. Dude, this is pitting like one of your ultimate fandoms here. You know, that's why I was saying with the Millennium Falcon. Dude, the Millennium Falcon's cool, but you've always said that you don't like that ship. That's why I'm saying, like, give it something that you do like, and I think Jack nailed it here. Cyberdyne or the Overlook Hotel.
I mean, Cyberdyne, much like the Overlook in the book, went boom.
It's true.
Doesn't
It's true. No, but we're talking real world.
Yeah.
If you could have a real world replica where you can go and tour the facility, I'm talking like the set, dude. Like, imagine being able to go see where Arnold walked and where the hand that you have. Where is it? It's here somewhere. I know it's here. It's right there. Yeah, under your TV. Yeah, the fucking hand.
Yeah,
and the little microchip. You know.
I mean,
come on.
Okay, I think here's the thing. I think there's certain areas of that would be really cool, but overall, the rest of most Cyberdyne is just an office building.
Just an office building.
So I mean, like outside of like that area with the 2 keys, and you get into like see the hand and the chip, and I think like that office floor where the shootout happens and gets blown up and stuff is pretty cool. And I guess the lobby is
where he takes the SWAT guys and just takes their masks off.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be tempted not to walk in and go, Gibbons. Come on, man! You can't leave the desk like that. But I still think it would be the Shining, just because the Shining is just so fucking cool, dude. Like,
well, I mean, at the same time, it's just a hotel. I mean, you get outside those 3 rooms, their quarters, the Colorado room, and room 237. I mean, aside from that,
you've got Ullman's office would be really cool. You've got the hallways are just because I was thinking about the iconic nature of the Overlook not long ago, because I saw trivia for something, and I can't remember what it was, but there was a trivia for some movie or something that used the pattern for the Overlook carpet on something, and it was like one of those ones that could have slipped by you, but it's like, no, I recognize it instantly. It's like, oh yeah, look, they're using the freaking carpet from the Overlook, and I've seen sweaters made with that. I've seen like rugs. I've seen, I just feel like it's like just the carpet design is so iconic that, I don't know. So yeah, T2 is definitely an all-time love. But
what about if it's the Cyberdyne building and then also like the metal refinery, kind of like side by side? Because you're right, it's just an office building. But if we had just like those like 5 areas in the office building, the bathroom, the lobby, then upstairs where there's the vault and the floor.
I almost think the
lobby.
Mental Hospital would almost be
Ooh, the mental hospital would be good for you.
Pretty cool. Oh man, I love that movie, by the way.
Dude, imagine if someone did like a fan experience, like kind of like a haunted house, but instead of haunted house, do a movie experience. You are Sarah Connor. You must escape this mental hospital. And you have like the actors acting for you to escape.
It'd be just a spin on the escape rooms. Just instead of doing puzzles, you'd be like survival type things.
Well, no, it just imagine how cool it would be if you could put fans in there to recreate scenes. Because I know, dude, I'll tell you right now, for you to play the Terminator, like the lobby scene, you'd pay money for that. to have actors where you could like pull their masks off and everything like that with the tear gas and everything. Put this on.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it is definitely a good question for sure. But yeah, I think the Overlook is probably still up there. I think I was thinking about it recently though. I think one of the ones that might rival it would be the mansion from Resident Evil, the original game.
Oh, you loved those games, didn't you?
Yeah, the original game, man. That would be something to have that rebuilt. I mean, that might be a little terrifying, but
there's a haunted house for you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's jump over to the next article here. Annabelle comes home. Filmmaker Gary Dauberman to direct Stephen King's vampire tale Salem's Lot. Exclusive.
Okay. I do this every time. We have Salem's Lot, and we have
the one that just got renamed. It's based on the Jerusalem's Lot short story.
Right.
It's
like colonial or whatever, right?
Yes.
Like older times.
Yeah, time period. Let me see. I have the films and development thing right here. Chapelwaite. So Chapelwaite.
That's what it is. Okay.
So this is the actual film Salem's Lot.
Okay. Thank you.
So yes,
Because I mixed those up bad last time. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool though. So let me get through the details here. By Boris Kitt from The Hollywood Reporter on April 10th, 2020. So New Line adaptation of Stephen King's novel Salem's Lot has found its vampire master. Gary Dauberman, the horror writer who made his directorial debut with last year's Annabelle Comes Home, has closed a deal to helm the feature thriller. Dauberman already has a stake. Sorry, couldn't resist. In Salem's Lot, as he also is the project's screenwriter. So he will have wrote. He wrote the script in this, and he will now be directing it.
Nice.
Published in 1975, King's book centers on an author who returns to his hometown to write about an abandoned mansion in a small burg. As he discovers the home has been bought by a mysterious man from Europe, he also realizes the town's people are slowly being turned into vampires. The writer bands together with a ragtag group to stop the spread of vampires. The final confrontation happening in the house with the mysterious man. So, good little recap there. While Salem's Lot has never been adapted for the silver screen, it has been translated to the small screen. 1979 miniseries starring David Soul as the writer, was directed by Tobe Hooper, the horror filmmaker behind the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist.
Dude, I always forget that he did Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I will make one small correction here to nobody that matters. But I mean, it doesn't matter to anybody but me because I'm reading the text here. But in this article here, they misspelled chainsaw. They spelled it correctly. In the original movie, it was separated. Chain and saw as two words. They made a mistake. But for all time now, if you're talking about the original film, you should always space those out. Just small thing there, which is incorrect for the actual tool of a chainsaw. But let's be correct here. Dauberman is one of Hollywood's big writers in the horror field and New Line's favorite. Given the movies he's been involved with have generated more than $2.3 billion for Warner Brothers division. So yeah, he's had quite a little run there. He penned the company's high-profile, successful King adaptations, It and It Chapter 2, and he's also a big part of New Line's horror line based on The Conjuring. He wrote the spin-offs Annabelle, Annabelle Creation, and Annabelle Comes Home. While directing the latter, he also penned the spin-off The Nun. And I want to say that he also did the new Pet Sematary. I feel like we've talked about him a lot recently with some different projects, and this article's not highlighting it, but I believe that he's done some other King works. Let's see, It, yes, Annabelle, yes. Let's see, The Nun, It, Annabelle, Wolf. No, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Story by Matt Greenberg.
Annabelle, yeah, no, never mind. I'm mistaken. I guess it is just It. Weird. I swear to God, we've talked about him before on other King projects, but apparently not. So yeah, never mind. I guess we talked about him a lot for It, I'm guessing, and I'm just mistaken that he was attached to something else because it looks like that is not the case. So never mind. I lied. Yeah. So that's that's the rundown on that. So that's pretty cool. Can't wait to see that. I really love that book. In general, I thought it was really cool, and I can't wait to see it get a big screen, hopefully R-rated as well, treatment.
It's the first King novel that I ever read.
Yeah,
because of you.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. And let's see. Chris in the chat says, "I've not seen the Pet Sematary movies. The book is grueling enough. I cannot imagine sitting through a series." It's Ryan said Pet Sematary needs to be a slow burn TV series. The movie doesn't do it justice, or the movies don't do it justice.
Alan said a while ago, I have pictures of inside the Overlook Hotel. It's tiny in comparison. Chris asked him the one in Oregon, Alan, and he said yes. And then Alan also said just a minute ago, I'm sending a Google Drive link to DTP email to share the pictures. So
awesome. Yeah,
we'll have to watch for that for next episode.
Yeah, we'll have that on next episode for sure. Let's see. And then Alan also says something completely crazy. One of the ballrooms in the Timberland Lodge is called the Barlow Room. I love the spirit of that. That's wonderful. Okay, so speaking of Overlook, let's jump to this next thing here. The Overlook Hotel. Mark Romanek reflects on the ambitious Shining prequel he almost made by John Squires from Bloody Disgusting on April 10th, 2020. Years before Mike Flanagan took us back to the Overlook in last year's Doctor Sleep, it was announced that the one-hour photo director, Mark Romanek, would be directing a prequel to The Shining for Warner Brothers, which was set to be titled The Overlook Hotel. This was back in 2014, though the project obviously never ended up coming to fruition. At the time, former The Walking Dead showrunner Glenn Mazzara had turned in a draft for the prequel story based on King's original prologue to The Shining, so there's kind of another connection to Dark Tower wise, as Glenn Mazzara we're familiar with, is hopefully still trying to pitch the Dark Tower
around
to other people, folks in general, studios, whatever. Which is one thing, though, is with all the lockdown and stuff, I will say there's still plenty of things being purchased out there. So I'm seeing a lot of people talking about selling projects and stuff. So hopefully it could still be something that could happen here in all this slow time of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
It was reported back in 2014, quote, the film will tell the origin story of the Overlook Hotel through the eyes of its first owner, Bob T. Watson, a robber baron at the turn of the 20th century. Watson scaled the remote peaks of the Colorado Rockies to build the grandest resort in America and a place he and his family would call home. Isn't that just wonderful?
No.
So what happened to Mark Romanek's Overlook Hotel, you asked? The filmmaker reflected on the unmade project in a chat with Collider this week. Quote, it is a great script, I think, Romanek told the site. It was based on a prologue to the novel that King wrote, and then the prologue was cut for length. So it's based on Stephen King. It's just not something that it's not just something that somebody made up. It's more of an origin story, almost like a Western or a wilderness story, going back to the construction of the and the desecration of the Indian burial grounds and the construction of the Overlook and to its meaning to its opening night. So that's kind of an interesting thought
That sounds
process.
really interesting.
Yeah, it does. Then he continues on. The problem is it got really expensive. It kind of reads like The Revenant or Hell's Gate or something or something. And I think they wanted to try Doctor Sleep to see if my impression on it is they wanted to see if there was a sort of Shining universe that they could have financial life through them or artistic life with the audiences. And I think Doctor Sleep just sort of did okay, and given that our script was costly, it was a little dead in the water right now. But you never know. It's a weird business. It's a very good script, and I'm proud of the script. Which, and I think there he's talking not necessarily about the artistic merit, because we were just hyping up Doctor Sleep, but the financials, because Doctor Sleep, as great as it was, did not do very well financially. So
Well, it's like they always say, money talks, right?
yeah, when it comes to getting sequels and stuff, so that's the reason that, for instance, we'll probably never see another Blade Runner movie,
Or Solo.
Yeah, Solo as well, yeah. So Romanek also noted, I was stupidly undaunted by its relationship to The Shining because it takes place decades and decades before there was and there's very little specific visual crossover. It was just, I thought, a really great story based on Stephen King. So I guess that was kind of just his response to most likely being asked, like, how would you dealing with trotting on the grounds of one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
And then it says, from what we gathered, Warner Brothers was indeed hopeful that Doctor Sleep would pave the way for more chapters in the saga of The Shining, but the film's unfortunate underperformance at the box office may have spelled the end of those plans, for now at least. So, that I thought that was kind of a cool to look into that, because, like, for me, I don't know that would have been necessarily my thought process. For doing like a prequel or whatever. I would almost think of all the stuff that Jack discovers would almost be what you would do versus like the building of it. Although once I hear that, though, I'm like, God, I would love to see that, though. Like, desecrating the Indian burial ground, because didn't Jack discover some accidents while it was being built as well?
Yeah.
So, there's some stuff like that they could get into. I mean, and that era, I mean, it's a totally different era. I don't know. That would be something else. Let's see. Ryan in chat says, "Fuck yeah, I'd love Resident Evil." I was thinking the same thing, Tad. And then Chris says, "Did we all love Blade Runner 2049?" I know I did. Yeah, I mean, I did too. I'm glad I saw it in theaters because it's such a visually striking movie. But yeah, it's just one of those, like, the original was a cult classic, and this one, I don't know why you would necessarily go, we're going to do $200 million sequel to a cult classic and hope that it's going to be a huge Hollywood success. because it ended up flopping at the box office, and most likely will be a cult classic just like the original. But still, artistically, I'm glad it exists because it's magnificent.
Yeah. I never got a chance to see it, so I can't wait.
Yeah. I think it's on
It's on Vudu.
Yeah. Or I have the disc as well. But yeah, it's definitely a good one, for sure. Okay, so next up, staying in the vein of The Shining, HBO Max orders The Shining offshoot Overlook, J.J. Abrams' Duster and Justice League series from Bad Robot. This is by Nelly Andreeva from Deadline on April 16th, 2020. So HBO Max has greenlit 3 drama series from J.J. Abrams and Katie McGrath's Bad Robots Productions. Overlook, inspired by Stephen King's The Shining. Duster, conceived by Abrams and DC Justice League Dark show. These are Bad Robot's first projects for HBO Max under a mega film and TV deal that Abrams signed with Warner Brothers last fall, which, yeah, that was something huge. That was like I don't remember what they paid him, tens or hundreds of millions for a 10-year contract or something. So yeah, definitely probably the first fruits of that. So horror thriller Overlook, inspired by and featuring iconic characters from King's The Shining, explores the untold, terrifying stories of the most famous haunted hotel in American fiction. So kind of what I was saying, what in my mind, what you would probably do, sounds like is what they're going to do here. The project reunites Bad Robot King and WBTV, who previously collaborated on the psychological horror series Castle Rock, which had a 2-season run on Hulu. Like Castle Rock, Overlook is named after an iconic location from King's horror universe. In another parallel, I heard Castle Rock co-creator / executive producer Dustin Thomason and co-executive producer Scott Browns are in negotiations to write Overlook. So some Castle Rock alum most likely behind it.
They said Castle Rock had 2 seasons?
Yeah, I think that it's really nebulous right now whether Castle Rock's going to be continued on or not. I think I think that might be kind of two-sided too. I don't know how much. I mean, now obviously Bad Robot and stuff is in other works, so they may not be as interested. Plus, I don't know now with Hulu mostly being owned by Disney, there really is kind of some question about how. I don't know, how is original content for Hulu going to going forward now that Disney owns them versus being owned by a collective of studios? So really hard to say right now. I think there's a lot of people hoping that season 3 still happens, but it may not necessarily be with all the same people involved.
Gotcha.
In its approach, Overlook also is reminiscent of A&E's Bates Motel, the prequel series to another horror classic, Psycho. King's The Shining was famously adapted in a 1980 feature directed by Stanley Kubrick and starring Jack Nicholson. A sequel, Dr. Sleep, was released last year. There was also a 1997 The Shining miniseries. So, yeah, I mean, whereas we're kind of seeing like what one may have been that never got made, we're now also getting confirmation that it's being greenlit for HBO Max to see a different take on the Overlook. So, which is, again, why I love this era of streaming, because I don't know, I feel like in a lot of ways it's not the same financial conversations that it is with movies, you know?
No.
Like, I feel like if you were to see a new Blade Runner come out in the future, it's going to be on a streaming service. It's not going to be through a Hollywood studio. So that is cool because, like, now, you know, even though it may not be that same thing with, like, looking at the building of the Overlook, we're going to be seeing an Overlook show that we probably never would have seen if it was nothing but the old days of television and normal television, normal television and movies. So that's pretty cool. So which of the two, which would you be more interested in, I guess? Like, if they were both being developed, I know the one isn't, but if they were both being developed, like the stuff that Jack finds, or just the building in that kind of old school early 20th century era?
I would probably go for the old school building the Overlook, because that's a story that's never been told. Jack finding the information about the caretaker that killed his wife and daughters. You know,
but you have like the gangsters, you have
you do
this deep history, and none of that's been touched on screen, really.
No, it never has. Absolutely, it never has. But I think that for what I would want to take away, because we kind of know how that story ends. So it's one of those ones where it's like, great, we got the story, but we also didn't add anything to the universe. Yeah. I think that building the Overlook could definitely add something to the universe that could make it significantly more elevated. Then you get the story of that character. I forget, is it Grady?
Yeah.
Grady?
Yeah.
Grady's story would be second for me after you build the foundation for a universe.
But Grady'd be like the last, like let's just say all this is one thing, and it was all one show, and you were going to do the building all the way through maybe the winter before, Jack gets hired.
Yeah.
The very tail end of that show would be Grady, right?
Was it because it was the last caretaker?
Yeah,
right?
he's the last caretaker. So kind of in a way of like Hannibal, where you're kind of telling the early stories and stuff. Like you'd almost get to the point where Grady would be like the final season, unless the show got really ballsy and wanted to redo. Which again, what I've been saying for the longest time, I want to see the fucking Shining in television, man, long form, modern day. Because like again, we're going to be covering the Shining pretty soon. We mentioned that on a previous episode that we were going to be doing a read the book.
Oh yeah, we got to read the book.
Read the book and then do the Kubrick movie and the King miniseries and then kind of go through it all. But that is kind of still in that vein, like you mentioned earlier with The Stand. It's the 90s. It's kind of got a certain, network television vibe. It's just different than what you're seeing now. Like different than like what Stranger Things is or Haunting of Hill House. Like
let's not just look at like the horror aspect of streaming. Daredevil changed. Ozark, shows like this, Game of Thrones that has changed how this like online stream, maybe not Game of Thrones because that's HBO, not just exclusive streaming, but even like 11/22/63, not necessarily like King's horror realm, but it changed how longer stories are looked at. In the form of, okay, well, we could have made a Daredevil movie. It could have been him versus Wilson Fisk, and he becomes Daredevil at the end. Hooray. Time for a Daredevil sequel where he fights the Punisher.
You wait for a couple of years for that to come.
Have him fight the Punisher. But how crappy would that be compared to the 3 seasons of Daredevil? Do we get 3 or 4?
3, I think.
3?
4 was in the works when
everything got stopped.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's just like I'm all for the streaming for longer shows. And it gets me bummed out every time I see one that I want to see adapted. When it's like, okay, they're going to make a movie about this. And it's like, that'd be better on Netflix or HBO.
Yeah.
It's just like.
and I've been saying that, I know everyone's like, oh my God, you can't do that. And I was saying that in the run up to Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
Is like maybe in prep for Dr. Sleep, before you did a Dr. Sleep adaptation, do a freaking Shining thing where you're, doing a new telling of the book. And, I don't even say remake anymore because I'm to that point where, like, if you're talking something that's based on a book, it's like Shakespeare. Doing a new version of Shakespeare isn't shitting on the previous people that did it. Nope. You're just taking it and doing your version of it now because it's a pre-existing script and you're just doing your version of it. That's the way I look at King stuff. You're taking a book, you're going to readapt it and whatever. And so I've been saying that for a while. So maybe even just do that to where you just did from building all the way through blow up. And then I wouldn't go into Dr. Sleep necessarily, especially now with the movie. Just let the movie stand although the movie is in its own different timeline because it's in the Kubrick timeline kind of. So, let's see. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is one that will be exciting for you. Stephen King's Firestarter remake is aiming to shoot this year, exclusive.
Hell yeah.
Ryan Scott for MovieWeb on April 17th, 2020. We have a little update on the status of the Firestarter remake. Stephen King is one of the hottest brands in all of entertainment right now, and in no small part thanks to the massive success of both It and It Chapter 2. King's 1980 novel has been on the Universal's to-do list for some time now, as revealed to us by screenwriter Scott Teems. The movie is, or at least was, eyed to begin production sometime this year. I had a recent exchange with, or I had a recent chance to speak with Scott Teems in honor of his new movie, The Quarry, being released digitally. During our conversation, I asked about the status of Firestarter. According to Teems, Universal and Blumhouse Productions are eager to get this one going. Here's what he had to say, quote, I'm still the writer. We just got a new director named Keith Thomas, and he made a great film called The Vigil coming up this year. And Universal and Blumhouse, they want to make Firestarter. It's always been an important project to them. I think we're making active steps toward that happening this year. The industry shut down notwithstanding, and that may change things. But right now, I'm really hopeful that might happen this year. So most likely that would mean if they were able to get it going this year, chances are that would be a early 2021 release date, most likely.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I figured you would enjoy that update. Firestarter centered on an organization called the Department of Scientific Intelligence, aka the SHOP. Two participants in the mysterious research project end up getting married and having a child. Their offspring, Charlie McGee, inherits pyrokinetic powers from her parents, who were given a low-grade hallucinogen called Law 6 during their college years. Now the government is trying to apprehend the young Charlie in order to harness her power and the unique skill as a weapon. So that's I in my head I think of that as just like the Hulk, when you get to a realm where you're like you're basically you have some sort of ability and the government's like, we're gonna weaponize you. Like, to me, I think the Hulk. I know there's other, like, that's like an age old thing, but for me it's the Hulk. Like, yeah. And the government's like, we own that, we own you because you got blasted with our gamma rays, so we own you, you're our weapon.
No.
So that's a lot of fun.
I love Firestarter. It seriously is one of my favorite Stephen King books. It's such a good book.
Yeah,
because it's not just the typical run from the government story.
Yeah,
it's got so much more to it.
Yeah, I would expect it not to be just a normal take on things because it's Stephen King.
Yeah,
right. He always does things different.
Have you read
No.
You've never read Firestarter? It's got such an element there of a psychological thing. Later in the book that I gotta say, I think you're really gonna like it when you do get to it, because it's not just your typical, government bad. We need bad government, put down bad government. It's not like that. It's not like the Institute kind of feels that way a little bit. It's like, wow, these fuckers are trying to do good, but like.
Although, did the Institute ultimately strike you as government? I always felt like that if they were government, they were some weird splinter, like dark cell that like the rest of the government wasn't super.
That's what the SHOP is.
Isn't really like as cognizant of, because like they're not like calling up every cop in the nation going, hey, we're looking for this person. Like, they've got spies that they've hired and stuff. Like, it feels like some super secret type thing. Like, so I always interpreted the Institute almost being more like if it was government.
It's more like the Illuminati versus like being part of the government.
Yeah, like maybe the government started it at some point whenever the Institute started, but at some point the government let go of it and it kind of became its own, standalone thing. And how much more dangerous that becomes now when it has like no oversight and they're just kind of living in their own bubble where they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, because the thing is that we don't get a view of the higher ups of the Institute. We get that one guy at the very end who's obviously not higher up, or else they would have never sent him out there versus that group.
Yeah,
there's not a chance in hell. If he was any kind of anyone, he would not get sent there. So we don't know. Like, I mean, the thing that gets me though is like the fact that there's one, in almost every major first world country. Like, they talk about that and it's like, woo, shit. Like, but the SHOP feels definitely like it is CIA. It's that's what it is. Yeah. Not supposed to act on American soil and does.
Yeah. So there's our new list, adding the Overlook in there. And I mean, we have a couple updates for a couple things on there, but yeah, Firestarter looks like it's still kind of moving along. But we haven't really had a whole lot of updates. I mean, I guess Salem's Lot now we've had updated, but we don't have any dates, obviously, especially now in the world we're living in. Yeah. The dates are very nebulous. But yeah, that's what we're looking at right now. So pretty cool. Now here's a fun little thing.
Uh-oh.
Stephen King Jeopardy. Compiled by WCYY, which is 94.3, which is a radio station. Where would you guess this radio station exists?
Maine?
Yes. it's a Maine rock station. And this is by way they use J Archives, which is apparently something that basically archives everything Jeopardy does. And I don't know if it's everything they've ever done, but it's certainly a place that just catalogs
everything. If it's ever
everything.
been on Jeopardy, it's there.
Most likely, yeah. I briefly glanced at it just to kind of see. So they basically, this radio station built a Jeopardy thing. So,
are we gonna play a game?
You want to go through it?
Are we gonna play a game? Do I gotta buzz in?
No, because I've already read through it all. So I'm just gonna.
Okay.
I was gonna do a calculator here to calculate your.
Am I gonna get points docked if I don't answer in the form of a question?
No, because I didn't take them down that way. Like midway through doing this, I was like, oh yeah, no, like. because the radio station I was looking at, they didn't phrase it that way, and I was just mostly typing based on what they had, so I didn't necessarily.
That's how I always get fucked with Jeopardy. It's like, anytime I've ever caught it when it's on TV, it's like, who? This person wrote the novels It and The Stand. Stephen King. No, fuck. Who is Stephen King? Damn it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got points for that.
Yeah. And Alex Trebek gives you a
Shakes his head
judgmental
at
look.
me.
Yeah, indeed. So, warning for anyone looking at the screen, it will change color here and very Jeopardy-ish. So, if you're used to the black, put on some sunglasses.
Oh, good Lord.
Hey, and I went legit here. I Googled and found exactly what shade of blue Jeopardy uses. And I used it because I will have no inconsistencies from the things here. So for 200, retired Professor Glenn Bateman is one of the survivors of the super flu in this Stephen King novel.
What is The Stand?
Yes, indeed. So 200 points or dollars, whatever.
Yay.
Yeah, so 400, Stephen King novel in which Chester Mill, Maine is sealed off from the rest of the world.
What is The Mist?
No.
It's not The Mist?
No.
Oh, shit. It's Under the Dome. Damn it.
So I don't watch Jeopardy enough. Does that subtract 400 from you then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you are now in the
Negative 200.
Oh, that's right, because there's The Simpsons where like they're trying to get money, and Marge goes on and she ends up with negative at the end. In the back, Alex Trebek is like, "Come on, you owe us $1,600, Marge," and they have to run from him. So yes,
damn it.
So now you're at negative 200, but you can make that up here as we move into 600. Ben Mears finds his hometown was infested with vampires, decides to fight back.
What is Salem's Lot?
Yes, indeed. So that is plus 600.
So it is in the form of Jeopardy. It's giving you the answer and you form the question.
Well, yeah, it's in that way, but it like they didn't phrase it as like they phrase it as like the answer is Salem's Lot. It doesn't say the question is what is Salem's Lot.
No, exactly. What is Salem's Lot, and that's the answer.
Yeah, but they didn't type it with like. So I'm not necessarily going to grade on the questioning. I'm no Alex Trebek.
You're no Alex Trebek.
Okay, so 800. Unlike the film King's film was titled. I guess it should say book was titled "This Actress in the Shawshank Redemption." I can see her poster now.
It's Rita Hayworth.
Yes. So plus 800. Okay, so going up to 1,000. Needful Things was King's last story set in this fictional town. Also the name of an entertainment company.
Oh, fuck. I just read this.
I don't have the Jeopardy timer. No, like the doot.
I can't remember what it is.
And then when Alex Trebek gives you the judgmental, what is, and it's in the chat here. Alan got it. Castle Rock.
Oh,
so
fuck.
I with that, I guess you don't lose points though because you didn't chime in technically, right?
Yeah,
Incorrect
answer.
You would have sat there and just let the thing go without hitting your buzzer. So we'll want to subtract that one from you there.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
Don't say I never did anything for you. 1,200. An angry fan makes Paul Sheldon destroy his own manuscript for the novel Fast Cars in this Stephen King book.
Misery.
Yes. That is true. So you're up to 2,400 now. 1,400. Stephen King's Night Shift short story collection includes this one about a deadly cult of kids in farm country.
Is it by the same name, Children of the Corn?
Yes.
Okay. I don't remember the actual, like, would they change them? Because I haven't read most of the short stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, never mind. It is here. So this one is they listed as the Daily Double. So this one you have to wager. So you have $3,800. So
go big or go home. Fuck, do it all.
38.
Let's do it all.
Okay. So for 3,800, then the question. Oh wait, did I?
Yeah.
No, I accidentally typed that one. I actually have it listed.
Okay.
I have it listed on the thing here. I knew I'd screw this up somehow. In Stephen King's sequel, The Shining, Danny Torrance grows up and fights evil as the titled medical man.
Oh, it's Dr. Sleep.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
So
Daily Double for the win.
Okay, so next up, 1,800.
Another Daily Double?
Yeah, they had two lists. I don't know if
Okay.
that's how it works, and I certainly know they would probably never put them in the same line, but whatever. We're going by their rules here. Okay, so 1,800. The running, I forgot to ask you what you were wagering.
All of it. Go big or go home. I mean, come on.
The Running Man and Thinner are among the novels that Stephen King wrote using this pseudonym.
Richard Bachman.
Yes, sir. So times 2. So now you're at 15,200. Okay, so for 2,000, Stephen King senselessly snuffed out this mouse in part 3 of The Green Mile. He'd be back.
Fuck, what's the mouse's name? I'm not gonna answer.
Okay.
I don't remember the fucking mouse's name. I've never read the novel. I've only seen the movie like twice.
Yeah, anyone in the chat? I'm glad we don't have a 30-second delay anymore.
What is it? It's like a common name, boy's name too.
Chris guessed Mr. Whiskers, which is not correct. Anyone? Alan and Mark, Mr. Jingles. See, I always remember the actor, Mr. Jingles, as he's holding his hand. So that one is in my head. So you didn't answer on that one. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we won't subtract it from you there. So now this last one here is Final Jeopardy.
Where you wager.
Yeah. So you got to wager. So you've got 15,200.
Do it at all.
Well, okay, I think you. This is the one you would answer as well as your wager.
Okay.
So, Final Jeopardy. The title of this 70s Stephen King novel was inspired by a line from the chorus of John Lennon's "Instant Karma." This is the one this one got me. So you got to answer and then put your wager, and then we'll go with it here.
Dude,
and this is where the Jeopardy music could be
judgmental. Fuck.
In junior high, they played that as a 30-second run up to the bell ringing, and ever since then, it's ruined that for me. Like, whenever I hear that, I'm just like, oh my God.
Okay, time's up. So I'm going to wager 2,000.
All right.
And I'm going to say Salem's Lot.
Okay, that is not correct.
Yeah,
so
minus
2,000. Alan got in the chat, though, The Shining.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, The Shining. And Chris said it as well, The Shining. So, yeah, a couple of you guys got it. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was fun. So, yeah, that would leave you out with 13,200.
I'll take it in form of cashier's check, please.
Call Alex Trebek. He'll have to owe you.
This is your Jeopardy, not his. You already said that. You're not Alex Trebek.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't even have a mustache anymore, so I can't even compliment his godly mustache, you know. Although, yeah, so I don't know. I thought that was fun. And I can't completely lie. There has been times I've thought about going through, and when I'm reading The Dark Tower, maybe creating our own Jeopardy that we could potentially bring up every so often. And maybe
fun.
even do something for a call-in show. I've always thought would be fun, like a trivia.
All right, first one to call in gets this.
Yeah, that would be something else. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of fun. Thought
that
it was
very fun.
Thought it was worth looking at.
I'm very disappointed in myself with the Chester's Mill one.
Yeah. It's one of those ones that trips you up a little bit. I got them all until the final one. Like when I was reading through it, like because the way they posted, they had created images as well of like the blue screen with like the question, and I was just like, as I read it, then I'd go down and find in like the small print and find where the answer was, and like the only one that I missed was the very last one.
Did you?
I
miss it too?
I had no clue. That was today I learned indeed. So,
The Shining, huh?
So next one I have here is Dreamcast. So. Dreamcasting, a new thing I wanted to add to the show.
Okay.
So I wanted a new feature of the show. Do it every episode. That's a roundtable. So basically, Dreamcasting an actor. So basically, where do we see them in the Dark Tower series?
Oh, okay.
And this isn't necessarily to say that like the TV show or the movie exists. This is just like whatever. Throw it out there. And if you said Roland last week for a guy, doesn't mean that you can't say Roland this week for the same person. Like This is just 100%. Fresh out of the gate, nothing else exists. You're just saying this person, because every once in a while someone will enter my mind for some reason, and this happened recently to me, and that's who this actor is we're going to talk about. And it did make me think, like, dream casting. Like,
Okay.
And I thought to myself, like, my first thought was like modern, like in the last couple years, what would this person? Because you know, and then I thought to myself, well, Dark Tower 2 would be interesting. So
the game is that
so
you're gonna give me an actor.
So both of us, yeah. So I'm gonna throw an actor out, and listeners, if you guys want to throw someone out like long term, like email in or tweet at me, I can add a list, and just every so often or every show we'll have at least one we'll talk about.
Okay.
And basically, and the other caveat to this, the first part of it, the main part of it, where would you put them in the Dark Tower? Bonus question: if we want, where would we put them in the King universe? If you maybe
outside of the Dark Tower,
maybe you're reading a book that. Suddenly it's like, oh well, he definitely fits this character that I'm reading in Everything's Eventual or If It Bleeds or whatever the hell, you know. So that could be a bonus question. Dark Tower is the core. We definitely want to talk about that the most. As well as we can cast any or I can pick any actor, living or dead, and male or female as well. I'm using the term actor interchangeably there. We can also cast them at various points in their career. Example, Clint Eastwood, if he were to be used, we can go from the 1960s when he was doing the Man with No Name series.
When he was perfect for Roland.
Or we could do the 2000s when he's an old man, like $1 Million Baby or Gran Torino. So that's kind of the game, is like you can cast them from different time periods of their life. And maybe we could even say that for every sometimes it might just be like, oh, I'd put them here. But it might be somewhere it's like, well, where would I put them if it was this era or this, whatever. That's kind of the ground rules, I guess. So let's go ahead and hit it here. The one that came to my mind this week, Bill Paxton. And I was thinking to myself how much I love Bill, and I just feel like he doesn't get, I don't feel like his career gets the credit that it deserves.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in all the same great movies as some other people that we value much more highly than him, and I just think that like he's one that we overlook, and he's passed away sadly in 2017. And when he came to my mind earlier in the week, I thought to myself, you know, what would I have seen him in? Like maybe in like the MCU, or maybe or I just thought to myself, or maybe even just in general, what movies have come out in the last couple of years since he died that maybe had a role that would be perfect for him. And then my next thought, of course, went to our show here, and I went Dark Tower. I'm like, where would I put him in Dark Tower? And so because it is Dark Tower, I threw up his picture also from Tombstone so we can see him as a cowboy. So
I think a young Bill Paxton, so
like
Predator 2-ish.
Okay.
Not young.
Yeah, not like
not Terminator young.
Or not like Weird Science.
Not Weird Science young.
Or he's playing like high school.
like young adult, like on the cusp and everything like that, of like full-fledged, like middle age and everything. I think he would make one hell of a Jafford. Tia Jafford.
Okay.
Tia? Is that his name? Tian Jafford? The one that basically says, like, enough is fucking enough.
Yeah.
Like, they're not getting another one of my damn kids.
Yeah, he's the one that's kind of the main person, right?
Him and Callahan are the two that spark the, hey, we got to rebel. Because that's where he's the one that finds out about the gunslingers traveling.
Okay.
And sends the feather.
I'll admit, for some weird reason, I love Book 5, but I can never keep any of the fucking people straight.
Yeah, Tia is his wife.
Yeah.
Or is that his sister?
I was thinking Tian
and Tia.
I was thinking Tian was a female. That felt female to me. But dude, I don't know why. I just have the hardest fucking time with that book, with just remembering anyone. You're
so focused on Callahan.
It's just I have a hard time. I mean, who's the one with the glasses? Who's the traitor? What's his name?
Slightman. Betty Slightman.
Slightman, that's right.
Slightman the elder.
And the kid is probably the only
Betty
reason.
Slightman the younger.
That's the only reason I can probably keep him straight. But the rest of them, dude, they all start fucking jumbling in my head. And it
Chris says he lost a feed again. Are we? I'm not spinning, so
no, mine's showing okay. Showing green, as a matter of fact. So no. Maybe just hit refresh, Chris. I guess if he's not hearing. Hit refresh. Looking good on this side. Okay, so
Alan says Slightman would be good. Also, someone, who was it that said? Alan said Eldred Jonas as well.
Okay. Yeah. For me, it probably isn't a big enough role for him. But there's just part of me that thinks he has to be Cuthbert's dad. Because just think of Bill Paxton and the type he generally plays. Is he not exactly what Cuthbert would be? Like, if you just took Bill Paxton and made him, 18 or whatever they were going to re-age them for the new show, wouldn't he be a perfect Cuthbert.
I got one for you. This one's kind of a double one for us. Keeping it in the Dark Tower, keeping it in book 5, a little bit into book 6 as well. The Manny Leader, and then especially the preacher in New York. Give me a God bomb. Older Bill Paxton, like Big Love is what I'm thinking of. Like
Yeah.
a little bit older.
Yeah.
I could see him being like that reverend. Give me a God bomb. Yeah, great big God bomb.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that it would be fun. In my head, like,
Oh, damn, he would make a fucking terrifying TikTok man. He doesn't have like the muscular build or anything like that, but I think he could be a terrifying TikTok.
yeah, he could definitely do that.
He's got the acting chops for it too, to just be like completely fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He'd fit right in there.
Don't you think? Like he would. I could see him just like fucking leg thrown over because he's supposed to be a little bit older.
Yeah.
Right. Like that. Like all of them. The Greys are. Is it the Greys? And then the pubes are the fucking psychos that are up on the surface. I can see him just like leg thrown over the arm of his chair, big old fucking like clock around his neck and everything, fucking bling blinging all over the place.
Yeah.
Talking about bipolar computers and transited circuits.
Yeah.
Fucking psycho.
Yeah, I could see that. We're right in the middle, or right in the tail end of book 3. Or book 2, if we were for our book clubs, if I had to put him in that book, for instance, in book 2, I think he'd have to be.
Dude, he'd make a fucking great Henry.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was thinking who we're in the head of right now in our book clubs.
Oh, dude, fucking Jack Mort. Damn.
Wouldn't he? I mean, I know I've got like a happy picture of him here, but like I just feel like he could definitely pull off like kind of a.
Oh yeah, he could pull off a psychotic. That's what I'm saying. Like with TikTok.
Oh, dude,
they're the same vein.
Just thought Frailty back in the day.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, he was in that, which is that's a killer, like underrated movie.
Psychological
that
thriller.
Movie was
fucking sure.
That movie was great. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully you like this. Maybe everyone in the chat too likes this new feature, because I would love to keep it going.
Oh no, this is gonna be fun.
But yeah, I thought Bill Paxton would be a fun one to cover, and definitely one that I love. I feel like he's one of those ones that I'll forget. Like I won't think about my childhood. I think of things like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Biehn, some of these guys that were like, but it's like most of those movies that I love for those two guys, he's in them too.
Yes, he is.
So, and more. I mean, like,
hey,
he crosses over into Predator 2, which is one I loved that growing up.
Oh yeah. Is he the only one that's ever been killed by all three? Terminator, Predator, and Xenomorph?
There's some debate, because Lance Hendricks, there's people that would debate he doesn't count because the alien doesn't kill him. The Queen doesn't kill him, and he's still functional, even though he's like ripped in half and shit.
But he doesn't survive into the third movie.
He is a bit. She reactivates him for a second before he is kaput. So
he dies, but it's more like died from miscare after an attack versus the actual attack.
Yeah, it's debatable. I personally would give them both the credit, in my opinion,
because I know Bill Paxton has been killed by all three: Terminator, a Xenomorph from Aliens, and a Predator.
Okay, so whereas Lance Hendrickson is debatable, Bill holds the record as 100% solid. He has indeed been killed by the trifecta.
Also the first.
Yeah, definitely the first, because Lance Hendricks wasn't killed by an alien until Alien versus Predator in 2004, I think.
2004, 2005,
yeah,
somewhere
I think that
around
was right in there. So
Paxton was killed by the third one in
Predator
2.
Yeah, Predator 2. So that was, in the early 90s. I can't remember.
First was Terminator, 84.
Yeah.
Then
Aliens in 86.
Then Predator 2 in
91, 92. Somewhere in there.
Very early 90s. So right there in a span of 10 years, Bill Paxton completed the hat trick.
Yeah, wiped out by all three. Love him though. So we'll jump over to odds and ends real quick. We already covered Everything's Eventual. I pulled that over and did that earlier, so we'll skip that. And then Chris in the chat, is Bill Paxton the It's Game Over man guy. It's been a long time. Yeah,
Yes.
that's him in Alien.
It's
or
over,
Aliens.
man.
Aliens.
It's over, man. Game over. Game over, man.
17 days. We're not going to last 17 hours. Yeah, he's something else, man. And his role in Weird Science is just like the ultimate spell to the rest of his movies.
Dude, I've never seen
like
Weird Science.
Oh, really? Oh, dude.
It's one of those ones that was like, you know, like kind of like sexual, and my mom was just like, mm-mm.
Dude, as an adult in the next like couple weeks, dude, you need to throw that on because like it's in the same vein as like your Ferris Bueller or your Better Off Dead.
Oh yeah, I've seen the memes and the gifs and everything like
Yeah.
that. So
It's just, I mean, I don't think it's a very I don't know. I don't think people will necessarily like that movie now because it's kind of objectifying and a little bit whatever. It's definitely not going to fit the modern day. Things were far different in the 80s when that movie was made, but Bill Paxton's role in that always cracks me up. He plays a guy named Chet.
wait, it was a show first, then a movie?
No, I think the show came after, is my understanding.
I'm looking it up on this app that I found where it tells you like where things are streamed.
Yeah, I believe.
I think I brought this up on.
Yeah, we talked about it
Yeah.
last roundtable.
And,
But I feel like the show is newer.
It said Weird Science TV show 1985, Weird Science movie 1985, Weird Science show 1984. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, and Alan says it's a movie better to remember. Yeah, and I will admit that I haven't watched it in a long time now. It's been a couple decades. But I loved Bill Paxton's role in that. He plays like a like kind of the abusive older brother of the main character, and he's just, I don't know. There's some scenes in there that kill me with him. He's
great.
I
I misread that. Weird Science the TV show was 1994.
Yeah, that makes,
not 84.
Yeah, that sounds.
No,
right.
it is unfortunately not on any streaming service.
Oh, okay. Well, I do have a disc, I believe.
Oh, do you?
I'm pretty sure. I'd be shocked if I didn't have that. That's one of those ones that just like, I'm sure at some point I saw it for like $3 on sale and bought it or something on DVD. So, all right.
Weird
So,
Science.
odds and ends. The big one, I guess, since I already covered Everything's Eventual, Shudder's Creep Show is going to be airing on AMC starting Monday, 10 p.m., 9 Central, beginning May 4th through June 8th. So, the new Creep Show that was made for Shudder. I believe we've talked about it.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we talked about it.
No, we talked about it. Oh, fuck no, am I watching it? Because I'm not taking the chance as a goddamn monkey. No.
Yeah, I actually haven't signed up for Shudder yet, to my shame. I don't have cable, so I won't be able to watch it on AMC either. But I definitely need to buy it on some sort of physical release or digital to watch, because definitely looking forward to that.
I think I can help with that.
What?
I think I get AMC.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I'm not sure.
So, jumping over to the Palaver section. So I've got just a little bit of a thing I tweeted on here. So I've got something I want to talk about that Chris from Australia did, but I kind of thought with the way this show was loaded that it wouldn't fit here, and I'm kind of glad looking at the time of where we're at. So I'm going to save that one for next time.
Okay.
The thing from Chris from Australia. Chris, if you're still in the chat, I know he was having some spinning issues, but if he's still with us, I definitely want to talk about his latest infographic. But I don't want to jam it in here and run out and short it on time. So we're gonna
do it justice.
Plan that for the next episode to have that kind of be a big discussion point for.
You're still here. You just said cheers, Tad. In the chat.
Okay. My chat. Oh, there we go. As I was saying, maybe I think chat goes way quicker on the phone than it does on me. Every once in a while, you'll say that somebody said something. I'll look over and the chat hasn't nothing's
You're
changed,
like, huh.
and I'm like, oh, okay.
No, it's just I'm seeing the future is what it is.
Yeah.
Clairvoyant.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So so I'm projecting the sound through what I'm seeing, and there's a 5-10 second delay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if I'm seeing a 5-second delay on the chat, whereas since you're technically in the chat the same way as everyone else is, you're seeing the chat real time, whereas I'm seeing it with like a 5-second delay.
Are they doing that on purpose so that you can see the chat as they're seeing the video?
Possibly. Yeah, that's probably right, because the new YouTube that it updated.
Yeah.
It's closer. It's only like a 5-second thing. Whereas before it was like a 30-second thing. That actually, okay, you're right. You nailed it. I didn't even enter my mind that, but I was just like, you always see things quicker than I do, but you're plugged into it like they are, whereas I'm completely different.
It's true. You're doing it from like the host standpoint.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were like how I have it, where you have just like your own window opened up and everything like that, you'd see it as a fan sees it. But
yeah,
it wants you as
it.
close to the chat as it is to the video, so that it matches up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Okay, so in the Palaver section, though, I do have one thing. I threw it out on Twitter. So I was thinking about it while listening to Everything's Eventual for some reason. I think just because I think I started thinking, where did this take place in terms of the writing of it, all this? And just because, like, not even necessarily that story, but there was some of because he mentions like the internet, for instance, and it's just part of me that's just like, internet and Dark Tower just don't jive to me. Like, even though I know the later books are, kind of real time-ish, and 1999, the early 2000s, the internet technically existed, but it was so different than what we think of now with the internet. So when, Dinky Earnshaw's talking about checking the internet, it just threw me through a loop a little bit. And so basically I came up with a Dark Tower timeline kind of what if. And so I had a thought, and I tweeted it, and there was a little bit of conversation. But I said, what if King was never hit by the van? Ooh. What would that have done? A few questions to that. How does that impact the release of the final 4 books of the Dark Tower series? Final 3, and then went to the keyhole being, including the 4. Dark Tower books. Secondly, how would that butterfly affect things like Dr. Sleep, 11/22/63, The Outsider? All these things that, because we kind of know how King's timeline falls now, but how would that change if the Dark Tower books were not out when they were? Because basically maybe not everyone knows, but so basically King, while recovering from being hit by the van, basically understood, and I think he says it in one of the intros, but maybe people skip the intros on Dark Tower. But on one of the intros, he kind of mentions that, like, I realized that, like, if I had died, like, this series would never be finished. And he kind of almost felt the weight and burden of that, of like, I need to finish this because, like, I wouldn't want this series open-ended, and so he rushed and basically threw everything aside and wrote the 3 books pretty much all at once.
5, 6, and 7.
And then released them over like a 2-year period. So just kind of the question in my mind is, what would happen what would be the case if that didn't happen, I suppose. So with the first 4 books, there was a gap of 5 to 9 years from Gunslinger, and 5 to 9 years, depending on how you look at book 1, because book 1 is technically written over a period of time, 78 to 81, and then it was published in 82. So it's like, if you take it from 82 to Drawing of the 3, you're talking a 5-year window. But if you take it from when he first started writing the opening sentence, you're talking a 9-year gap. So it depends on how you look at it. Because
when was the first story published in the magazine?
78.
Then I'd go from there.
So that's 9 years, which I don't know. Yeah,
that's where I would go from, because I think King had majority of the story for book 1 kind of in mind, if I remember right from what he said. And so I wouldn't take it from where the book was published, because, it came out in chunks over that, 4-year period between 78 and 82.
81, yeah.
81.
And then 82
was when
I think the final...
I was talking about is 82 when they actually published it
the full
as
book.
a novel.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is like, King had it done before that. Like,
and then Chris got a point. He started writing the Gunslinger in 70, because he started publishing it in 78, but he was writing it way earlier.
That's why,
because he was in he was in college, right?
Because
the whole story about the green paper that somebody gave him some green paper that basically we can't use it for anything, and he wrote longhand on that. So like the original manuscript was written on so yeah, like you're talking. So even still, yeah, that makes it even more. Either way, so
I say publish the first story in the magazine is where I would go from it, because that splits the difference there. From when he started it in 1970, he also worked on other things there in between. He didn't finish anything, but I think when he first published it, that's where it's like, okay, they want more, great, I'm going to give them everything they can handle. And that's where he goes forward with the Gunslinger. So that's where I would call it a 78. Maybe just to be, sake of argument, let's call it 79 and give it 8 years.
Okay, well, yeah. So either way, let's call it. I'll still keep it at 5 to 9. So 5 to 9 years from Gunslinger to Drawing of the 3. 4 years from Drawing of the 3 to Wastelands. 6 years between Wastelands and Wizard and Glass. So if you average that, if you went to the high side, went 9, it averages to 6 years. If you keep it at 5, it averages as 5 years. Just depending on, because it's like 5 to like 5.5 and like whatever. So you're talking kind of that period. So I just called it a 5-year window.
Okay.
just kind of going with the end of from 1982, from when the first book was published as a book,
Okay.
to when the next book is published. It's a 5-year period. I know that gets nebulous because of when it was written, how it was released in the magazine, but let's just keep it this way for simplicity.
But it's also more. I would say it's more accurate to call it this way because King when was Wizard and Glass published? 97.
Wizard and Glass was 97. Yes.
Wizard and Glass is the last one that we're going to be going off of because Wolves of the Call is after the van accident. We're saying that it's without the van accident. The thing I would say is that when King gets to where he can publish basically whatever the fuck he wants, at that point it's a 5-year gap.
And that's
if you take the gap in between 1 and 2 out and start from 2 to 4, you're saying it's a 5-year gap in between those. That's where it would be from 4 to 7. So that's what I'm saying. It's a little bit more accurate if we do the 5-year versus if we do the 9-year. So that's where I'm with you.
So
5 years.
So assuming that held consistent, that would mean that Wolves of the Call would come out in 2002, which is actually a year before it actually came out. So in that case, maybe that could even point to maybe that he was going to maybe go a little bit longer than he would normally. But either way, that would put that one at 2002, which, I guess that would be after the accident still. So the accident was in 99. So, okay, so 2002 for that one. So that would be 2007 for Songs of Susanna, which is 3 years later than this book was originally published. And it actually lines up with when King released Blaze. I don't know about right, but we'll say release. So the novel Blaze came out at around that time. Okay. So that means The Dark Tower then would come out in 2012, which is 8 years later than it was published. So in our timeline, it was published 8 years earlier than that. That would mean that if nothing else changed, he would be publishing before publishing this book. He would have published Doom McKee, Under the Dome, and 11/22/63, just to name a few. There's a few other books in there, but those are some big ones. That
the Mr. Mercedes series too.
No, not before 2012.
Not before 2012.
No, that one came out a little bit later. So. I guess so makes me want and then also the other interesting thing is that would also put book 7 coming out the year that Wind Through the Keyhole actually comes out in our timeline. So which is interesting in a lot of ways, but that would mean that obviously Wind gets pushed out. So Wind Through the Keyhole will be published then in 2017 if this timeline were to hold. This means and also interestingly Wind Through the Keyhole does have about a 5-year gap as well because a longer gap than that because it's 2004 to 2012.
Yep.
So you're talking an 8-year gap between. But
12.
I'm gonna hold that one as not necessarily the same because that's a spinoff.
That's coming back
book.
to it and telling a mid-story.
Yeah, like that's a little bit different than like I got to finish this series. I'm taking the next step. This is just like, hey, I'm going to dip my toe back in and revisit this universe. Like that's different to me, so I'm not going to hold that in our equation. So 2017, that means that we would have had a new Tower book during the time of Dark Tower Palaver because we would have been a podcast at that point.
When did we start? 2013? 14?
14? I think
it's 6 years this September.
October, yep.
October.
So we would have a new book to talk about, which is something that we have not had for Dark Tower. Also, he would have published Dr. Sleep, the Hodges trilogy, all in the gap before Wind Through the Keyhole was done. And that would mean that this would be coming out right about the time that in our timeline, the time that he and Owen were publishing Sleeping Beauties.
Damn.
So which again, that falls right in the window we've been in the show. So that's crazy to think about that timeline. And that's just assuming that he doesn't get a hair up his ass and go 8-year gap between some of these. Like, I mean, we could literally be in a spot where With the Keyhole is being published this year or next year.
We could very well have the discussions of who's going to finish first, King or George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, I mean, although at least King actually publishes still. So, and then Chris in the chat says the big question would be, would King write himself into the series without the accident? So now you're talking, because that's the other question. So the other reason I pointed out some of these things that got published in the meantime. So, for instance, Doom McKee, Under the Dome, and 11/22/63, those are all out before book 7 in this what if scenario. So my question would be, does any of those impact things that may show up in book 7?
Doom McKee wouldn't have been written.
Is there characters that or is there characters or events or something that may have showed up in book 7?
Saying that it's loading on their end, they've lost us again.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, now we're back into the hundreds for megabits per second. So, and the connection's showing green now. So, let's just see if the stupid things will connect to each other.
It's showing we're live again. Not
Okay, yeah, maybe everyone can hear us now.
Chris says we're back.
Okay, yeah, it's
Sorry about that,
again,
guys.
yeah. I think it's ISP issues, man. I don't know if it's ISP or if it's hardware. I'm definitely gonna have to look into it though, because that's the second time that happened to us. So, yeah. So back to the conversation. We're basically, yeah, like Chris said, it's the really big question is the big story change. Obviously, would be King inserting himself. I mean, why would he insert himself without the accident? Like, really, the reason he inserted himself in a lot of reasons is because the accident was kind of
catalyst.
Yeah, like that's actually a really cool storytelling thing. But without that, like, unless he was going to insert himself as like getting lethargic and not wanting to write the Dark Tower series, but I don't know. I don't see.
But
that.
he already kind of did that already, but that hadn't been written yet. So maybe that's all he does is that he doesn't write him in with the accident and have that be Jake's death. He just writes himself in saying that he gets lethargic and Roland shows up to, hey, dude, the fuck, get back on it, and that's it. That's all you ever see from King there. And then maybe the scene like where he talks to himself about rewriting, writing the Dark Tower, and he does the goes and picks up his son and goes and joins his wife and everything like that. That one, I always like that scene. But the accident, I don't think that they have to go back and save Psy King.
And
I think maybe they would have changed it where maybe it's something else that threatens the Rose, and that's where Jake sacrifices himself. Because I think that's the way Jake has to go. Jake can't be there in book 7. Like it just doesn't work. At the end of book 7, because it's got to be Roland alone.
And Chris said if King didn't have the accident, then he wouldn't have the idea that the Crimson King is trying to stop him from writing the series. So like, there's even like story elements of like big driving factors that wouldn't necessarily be there. So, I mean, ultimately, we'd be looking at a radically different thing. But the one thing that got mentioned on Twitter that I thought was interesting is stylistically, each of the books are kind of unique early on because they all come at different periods of his career, right?
Yeah.
1970, he's a college kid.
Yeah.
Then 1987,
he's got some measure of success.
He's on the billboards. I mean, he's got hit movies coming out based off of his stuff. Like he's huge at that point. And then you get into the 90s. I mean, each of them come at a different period of his career.
Yeah.
We kind of know as King archaeologists, some of us are far more experienced than others, or versed in the King as others. As we found from our reading list. But like, we know that there's just different eras, and his writing is different in different eras, and it changes even in the time, since in this century that we have. Like, it's different. In the early 2000s, King was writing far different books than he's writing now, and it makes me wonder, like, because the last 3 books all feel the same. I mean, I know he's doing different things, but stylistically, voice-wise, they're very, very similar. And in fact, I think that's really what leads to 6 and 7 merging together so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like 5 would do the same thing if it wasn't for the 7 Samurai, Magnificent 7 thing that he was doing. He was basically retelling that same classic film story through his book, and he built it up in his own cool, unique way. But I just... that one, so that keeps that one separate, but the other 2, they just kind of merge together, and I wonder if all of that is because they're also similar in style, because he wrote them all at the same time. He wrote them in one sitting, whereas if there was a 5-year gap with different novels written and different experiences, those 3 books, they're going to look different.
Well,
they're going to feel
here's
different.
The thing. Chris says something here that kind of sparks something for me. He says, especially the last 2 books, the last 2 are the same voice, is what he says, and that actually has brought up a point that we've talked about. Dude, nothing happens in book 6. if you split book 6 between book 5 and book 7,
6 is a lot like a second movie in a trilogy that was meant to be a trilogy from the beginning.
Yep.
Because there's two kinds of trilogies. Ones that get made through success. I would say like Star Wars.
John Wick.
Like Lucas wanted a series, but he didn't know if he would get one. So
Right.
he made one movie, and it was like, boom, this could be one and done. It was big. So then Empire, he kind of builds his own thing. Like, and it's different than like Lord of the Rings. On the other is the other kind of trilogy where it's like they knew up front they were getting 3 movies. And so those stories are structured in a way to where Two Towers, a lot of people love it and it has some really cool stuff, but in a lot of ways, not as much happens in that one as happens in the first and the third because it's the middle chapter. And I think what you're saying there with 6 for our books here is that's kind of like that. That's that middle thing that connects. Because I feel like you kind of have a trilogy. You have,
which when you're writing it in one sitting works. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll split this up and everything like that. But if he's writing them individually, book 5 doesn't end on a cliffhanger.
probably not.
There.
No.
I think book 5 ends with them reunited, everyone back together under the freaking birthing thing and everything like that. And then you put everything else in book 7.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe you don't have them reunited. Maybe you have them surviving the ambush and heading towards New York or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, Jake doesn't. You know, but I think that because book 6 ends always in the wrong spot for me. I always forget where book 6 ends. It ends with Jake walking into the Dixie Pig with Father Calhoun. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, the confrontation is in book 7. I always thought that was in book 6. I get those so mixed up all the time.
Yeah.
Realistically,
And it's
I
because
think
it's
that-
because we as readers too, we just go from one to the other. You know, if you were to go and go book 6 and then stop and go read one of King's or listen to one of King's short story novels and then go into book 7, I think that would help create a wall between the two. But like most of us are instantly going to read that last word of book 6 and go right to book 7.
Exactly.
So there's no delineation.
And with what Chris is saying here, they're the same voice, so there's no going straight from, you know, the beach to the woods from books 2 to books 3. It's still a change.
Yeah.
It still feels different.
Yeah.
And there's not that change in between book 6 and 7. So in my view of this question of what if, I think we finished with 6 books.
Well, early on, before the accident, one of the afterwards or prologues, he kind of says that he thinks it's probably a 7-book series.
He thinks.
So,
But the thing is that, okay, then what I would say is that something else is inserted.
something else would happen. Yeah.
Something is different with book 6.
6
then.
would probably have another big addition to it in some way, whatever that might be.
You move Susanna getting rescued up to the mid climax. You know, the we made it to Blaine. Great. We did it. You know, the rescue Jake in book 3 is more apt.
Yeah.
We rescued Jake. We found the cradle of Blaine. It's the mid. Okay, great, but we're not out of the woods yet, kid. Keep shooting. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's where Susanna gets rescued and where Mordred is born. But then I think there's something else there. Maybe the monster scene with him and Susanna where they're running through the tunnel. Maybe that's all of them. Maybe you incorporate that back into book 6 and you make that a whole quartet instead of just part. Or something there. Maybe the rescue of Alguciento is book 6.
Yeah.
And then Roland and Susanna and Oy going on alone is all of book 7. Maybe you end on Jake's death for book 6. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like 6 and 7 would be as they are if you wrote them out over time.
Yeah, I think
I don't think he could do 2 cliffhangers like he did.
Yeah.
With Blaine, I don't think he could do another one where...
And also...
Well, really, it would be 3 cliffhangers because book 5 ends on a fucking cliffhanger, too.
Yeah, and that's what someone here mentioned. So first of all, Chris said, Song of Susanna is one day. Susanna arrives in New York with Mia and goes through the Dixie Pig to Fedek, all in about 12 hours.
Yeah.
And then Chris also said that's where it ends for Jake and Callahan, but actually ends in Mia and Susanna and Fedek about to give birth. And then Chris says he just read it. And then Alan is one that said, you don't get the feel of an accomplishment by defeating the wolves with Benny dying and then them chasing after Mia. Yeah, because you kind of get that instant, like,
oh, shit.
You don't have that moment of, like, celebration or achievement. You instantly go into the next thing. And the other thing is, I wonder is, does King write that way with these kind of cliffhangery endings because he knew they were all going to come out so quickly?
I don't think he would, because of how much shit he got for Blaine.
But I'm just saying is like, did he write them in the timeline we're talking in the real world?
Oh yeah, he did. Oh yeah,
because he knew that they're all going to come out within a year of each other.
No, he talked about it in the author's note for 4. He got that letter from that woman that's like, I just want to know if they survive. Like, do they make it?
The lady with terminal cancer.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know either.
Yeah.
I don't think that he would do that to himself again. Himself, not just the readers. Himself.
Yeah.
To where he would have to put cliffhanger after cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Because that would be 2 cliffhangers on 5 and 6.
100% agree. If he had no idea that he was sitting down to write all 3 at the same time, there's no chance that he would that he would ever that he would do another cliffhanger. Because you're right, Blaine was too much of a kind of not a fuck you to the fans, but it was too much of a kick in the gut to a lot of fans.
Yeah.
And then to have to wait on that cliffhanger, like, I don't think that he would even do the slightest cliffhanger for the others. I think like Mia taking over and leaving would have happened in the next book. You know, that wouldn't be.
That's where you start your problem.
You would have like kind of the final kind of hoorah of them having to kind of enjoy their win, even though they have some losses, deal with those losses, and then see the gunslingers leave in a normal manner. And then when the next book picked up, at that point, you would probably turn the heat up on Mia, and then you'd see the disappearance.
Yep.
But it wouldn't be a cliffhanger, and you wouldn't have a cliffhanger from 6 to 7 either.
So
because you're right. He's a storyteller. He knows what he's doing, and he knows that.
Dude, book 3 was rough.
That's a rough one, man. Yeah, that's a pisser. Like that's a really, really, really hard one, man.
I think you nailed it on the head when you said it. It's a kick in the gut, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to take. Especially, I mean, me and you never experienced it, but having to wait for the 4th book.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
God.
Oh my God. Like, you can't put them in that again. You can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
Especially, he talks about it in the author's note that he doesn't like the way it was handled. Like, not handled. He doesn't like that people are like, no, you know what's going to happen. Don't lie to us. Like, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
He hated that. He hated it.
Yeah,
and he really didn't know. That's what he says.
Yeah.
He really didn't know. And if he's going to do that again, no chance. No chance in hell that he does that.
Exactly. Agreed. And
let me ask you this question. How does the quartet leave the Kala? Do they go through the door?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
That's where Roland says they're going.
Yeah.
We're going back to New York to make the Rose safe.
Yeah.
Eddie kind of does it, but they know that they have to go and firmly finalize it, which is what they do in book 6.
So there's a question with the Rose and stuff. Does all that get larger and more important if you remove the whole King aspect?
How awesome would it be if book 6 was them building the tech corporation? Instead of handing it off to someone and we don't see it. We see it later in book 7 what happened by them handing it off. Do they stay and build, like, start the foundation of the tech corporation instead of rushing off to try and save Susanna because they don't have to do that yet? If you make book 6 where she runs away at the beginning, they go after her, they somehow get split up. I mean, you could think of any number of ways that could happen.
Easy, yeah.
Where they
even just even just what you need to accomplish.
Yeah,
they may have to look at it and go, "We need to split up. We can't do this all."
We cannot set up a corporation to take care of the Rose and save Susanna. So we need to split up and go do that. You know, and then the way that they try to split up, they get driven in the wrong directions.
Yeah,
where Roland and Eddie end up in Maine again. And Jake and Callahan end up in New York. Yeah. Or maybe they don't get split and they stay together. And that's where they rescue Susanna. And that's the rest of book 6 that I was talking about. They need to create something. Yeah. Is they go and build the tech corporation. But you make the climax of book 6 Algo Siento. Yeah. Where they go to rescue the breakers and Eddie dies.
Yeah.
And then Jake dies in book 7 doing something with the Rose.
Yeah.
Something critical is going to happen with the Rose, and we need you to come back. Jake shows up and dives in front of Roland getting hit by a car.
Yeah.
Instead of King, it's Roland.
Dude, what if Jake got pushed?
Oh, shit. Like, they come back for something and someone like a spy or something pushes Jake off of like a building or into traffic or something.
Maybe even dressed as a priest.
Oh fuck, dude, you're evil. Hashtag Ted is terrible.
Hey, I got really late into this episode before I got that. And also, I have to just point out, isn't it funny how, like, not only this, but earlier in the show, we talked about the certain ending stuff, too. So, like I said, like I always say in the intro, it's not necessarily we even plan it, but it just seems like we always end up
talking about it.
We always end up here.
Always,
yeah. Let's see, Cody says, and Cody joined us, too. I think he came in a little bit later. So, Cody, welcome. He says, also, Dan's Macabre, my last book to read till Uncle Stevie puts out another one. Alan says they go through the door with the Manny because the unfound door is locked. Let's see. Cody says Roland and Eddie go to Maine. Alan says it's kind of what they do with Mr. Tower. Jake and Callahan go to the Dixie Pig, setting up the tech corporation and telling them to invest in microchips. Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot, and it's just an interesting what if. And like I said, it just struck me one day. I think I was driving to work or something, and it just struck me as I was listening, because again, it was just weird, like hearing Dinky talk about looking something up on the internet. I was just like, you could, and that'll be interesting as you go through the tail end of the series. Look at if there's any reference to the internet at all, like in terms of like someone referencing it, and like
they do. I can tell you right now, I remember
can't.
Roland, when he goes to the tech corporation, they bring up that they're always competing with purchasing stuff, including online stuff. If I remember right, she says something about that.
Okay, because I mean, again, like in 2003ish when he wrote it, and then if he's writing it in the 1999 era, you don't have the internet's not what it is now. So it's just one of those things. Again, it feels anachronistic. It doesn't feel like it fits in the Dark Tower series, but even though it does, really.
The big thing is that if you remember, book 5 ends with Mia taking over and Susanna getting kidnapped. You know, she kind of agrees to it as long as Mia lets her fight.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you remember, beginning of book 6, Roland and Eddie were supposed to go to the Dixie Pig, and Jake and Callahan were supposed to go to Maine.
Yeah.
So if they get the choice and it doesn't get flubbed up, how different would that have been? Jake and Callahan meeting King versus Roland and Eddie.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Callahan walking into your kitchen or walking around your front yard, like how he freaks out about Roland, he runs to the backyard and runs into like the lake. Is he going to have the same visceral reaction to the priest from Salem's Lot?
I think he'd be shocked by Callahan, but I think Roland, there's a fear because Roland's Roland.
It's Roland. It's fucking Roland, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That's the kind of the, I don't know. We can probably go on this for a while, but we could put a button on this. But that was just an interesting what if that I thought is like, I guess it didn't even get into as much like how it had affected the things, because King's such a machine that probably wouldn't have affected anything else being published.
No,
but it certainly.
I think they would have had more Dark Tower tie-ins.
And
if he was still in the middle of publishing the series, any of those books that you referenced, 11/22/63, Mr. Mercedes,
makes me wonder, does,
any of those ones.
Does the Kata end up at Dealey Plaza? You know, like that entered my mind as like, did they end up at Dealey Plaza for some reason? You know,
imagine Susanna's reaction having to watch the JFK assassination.
Dude, yeah, that's a perfect thing to do. Put her in there to watch that. You know, Chester's Mill. I mean, like it's just like, dude, there's so many cool things that I don't know. It's an interesting. Concept.
The town that they come out in would absolutely be Chester's Mill. If Under the Dome existed, Chester's Mill from 30 years before Under the Dome happened, absolutely would have been the place that they would have come out in.
Yeah. And of course, there is also real world things too. Like, does books being published more recent, including these big meaningful books, does that maybe change things with the Dark Tower movie moving along and stuff? You know, like I don't know.
The Harry Potter movies got picked up before the series was done. We were on book 4 when the movies started coming out.
Yeah,
if I remember right, I could very well be wrong about that. But I seem to remember book 5 coming out after the movies. I don't remember if I was into the series before the first movies were coming out.
Yeah.
I was a little bit older when I started those. I wasn't like young when they first started coming out. But I think that I think it would be very interesting to see a different world, because the thing is that like he brings up like the two towers, because that's where they put Black 13.
Yeah.
And that's just like, holy shit, like, damn, like that's where the Black 13 gets destroyed.
Yeah. Well, does it?
Does it? Dun dun dun. Does that become something? Do you think that ever becomes something?
I mean, probably not in the actual text, but I think it's one of those things that you could definitely extrapolate and wonder, like, what happened, Like, I don't know. Maybe it does get destroyed, but I don't know. Just
I think that getting dropped on it would destroy anything,
Seems like a crafty enough creature like the ring from Lord of the Rings, It just seems like something that would find its way to surviving.
So you see Elijah Wood walking into the Two Tower. Frodo. I must open that locker. Take that bowling ball with me.
Okay, so yeah, that's that fun little butterfly effect conversation. So the last thing I wanted to touch on, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, and this is kind of we'll jump into the mailbag after this and do an email. But I actually have been looking at doing this for a bit now, but I've created a listener survey that I'm going to put in the show notes. If you guys as listeners can go to the show notes and go through and fill that out. I have it set to where I don't think you're going to have to sign in. It's a Google form, but I think I have it done where it's not going to take your email addresses or anything. So you should be able to submit without having any identification stuff. So it's perfectly private, well, as insofar as privacy is concerned with Google, but I'm not trying to get your information, not that I don't think most of you guys care, but I made it super easy that way. But it's just a couple questions, I think maybe 10 or so questions, but just some basic stuff, just kind of taking the pulse of everyone, a couple things in there. I mean, it all interests me, but if you guys can jump on the show notes when this episode is posted, which hopefully I'll try to get that posted sooner rather than later for folks listening live. Jump on there, go fill that out. It probably wouldn't take you more than 10 minutes or so, would be my guess. And
jump on where?
It'll be on the show notes.
Where do they find the show notes?
DarkTowerPalaver.com.
There you go.
So yeah, if you guys can do that, I'd be most appreciative.
So you said listeners, right? So you don't want me to go take a survey on you?
I mean, it's on us.
Is Tad an evil person? Yes.
That is not a question.
Is Flag the bad guy? Yes.
Of course, that's not a. Of course, that's not a question.
Because of course he is the bad guy. Of course you're evil.
But yeah, so if you guys can do that, that'd be awesome. And also, I guess it's kind of like the reader's guide that we've made, our readers count list for the books we've read. It's kind of the honor system, since there is no emails. I can't necessarily guarantee restriction that you're not submitting multiple times. But just be cool and don't submit multiple times. I don't know why anyone would. I'm not worried about that with our listeners, but just say it for the sake of saying it. But yeah, if you guys can fill that out, I would appreciate it. And then we got emails. And for some reason, the tablet died. It showed it had full battery, but then it died.
It's dead.
I'm guessing that it didn't have a full battery, and it was lying to me when it was plugged in. So it's dead. So no email jingle this time. But we'll go ahead and jump into it, though. Bart from Belgium. I think I'd say long-time listener. It's been a while since we've heard from him, but yeah, I remember him from early on.
Yeah.
So he says, I haven't emailed in ages, but I'm still listening to every episode of the podcast, and he gives us a smiley emoji, and that's good to know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder with certain people, because like there's people that were like emailing a lot early on, and then they don't email necessarily. I always wonder like if they still listen or not. Not that it's like going to necessarily hurt my feelings or anything, but so it is good to hear from folks that haven't emailed in a while. So thank you for the update on that, Bart. And he says, just wanted to send my list of books that I've read. When filling out the form, I discovered that I haven't read as many books as I thought I did. And then another smiley emoji. As you can see, I'm up to 33 at the moment. Not bad at all, but I thought I'd have more than that. And then another smiley emoji. And I think, what did you think, Peter? I mean, I know we kind of had the whole bet with each other about which of us had read more, but like with your number, did you... Like, was that over under your expectations? Like,
it was definitely higher than what I expected.
Okay,
that's for sure.
Okay. And he says, as for reading at this moment, in the way of physical books, I'm reading Finders Keepers. I got to the first part where there's no mention of Hodges and stopped at the chapter where we first meet him again. So I do love Bill Hodges, man. I think I might have to go through those again sooner than later, because
it's not going to happen anytime soon.
That's such a. I mean, that whole series is great, but I love Bill. And I think just revisiting Holly is just
with The Outsider with the new book.
Yeah, and the new book coming up soon. It does make me miss Bill a little bit. And then he goes on and says, I put the book aside because I had a Star Wars book come in that I had wanted to read first, and he said Force Collector. I only have one more chapter to go in that one. Then I'll be picking up Finders Keepers again. After that, it'll be End of Watch, of course. And when that's done, I got Lizzy's story to read on my bookshelf, and I know there's at least one King novella as a present under the tree. So I guess that does date what we're talking about here. But I don't know which one. Hoping for 11/22/63. Or he said novel. No, I think I said novella. But he said novel. Hoping for 11/22/63. Well, Bart, I guess you already know what it is now, but I would say in the future, if you're ever curious about a book that's under the tree, if you suspect it's 11/22/63, just pick it up. If it feels like a brick, it's probably 11/22/63. Right, Peter? And then he says, as for audiobooks, I'm currently listening to The Stand with about 14 to 15 hours to go. Just finished the part where they hypnotize Tom Cullen in order to have him go spy on in Randyland, which I love the sound of that, Randyland.
Randyland, that's terrifying.
After The Stand, I'm not sure yet. I have a few I want to listen to. It, 4 Past Midnight, and Firestarter. Haven't made up my mind yet. Although by this point, he's probably already gone through all of those.
Firestarter, if you haven't.
Again, we're behind. Furthermore, I'm very much looking forward to the Amazon series. Yeah. So, also very curious about the Outsider series and the Institute. I only hope I'll be able to watch those somehow here in Belgium without having to download them illegally. For example, I still haven't found a legit way to watch Castle Rock over here. And a frowny emoji. No Hulu in Belgium. Hey, VPNs, in my mind, that's not illegal, right?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Dude, yeah, I'm sorry, but the whole idea, in this day and age where the world is global,
yeah,
this idea of distribution rights being as fucked as they are, I have no problem saying use a fucking VPN, because if it's not available somewhere, go fuck yourself. That's my view.
It's so bass backwards. It drives me nuts.
And I want creators to get paid. And I want people to pay for content, because that's how these people make their living.
Yeah.
But there's just part of me that there comes a point when it's if something's 100% not available, I don't know. To me, not seeing it is out of the question in my mind. And VPNs, to me, it's that's not the same as illegal downloading, right? You're just changing a thing to make them think you're in America to watch it or whatever, and you're not downloading it to the point where I don't know. It just maybe it is still kind of nebulous legally, but I don't know.
I'm just gonna plead the fifth over here. I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. I've used VPNs on occasion, but I don't know. That's my that's all I'll say. And then he says, having the same problem with Star Wars content, there's still no official launch date for Disney Plus in Belgium. We can only hope that it'll be March 31st with the UK, but that's not confirmed yet. I want to thank you two for keeping us informed and entertained with the podcast. Keep up the good work. I wish you both a Merry Christmas and Happy King-filled New Year. And so far, 2020 has been pretty good.
Quite the year.
Yeah, pretty good. And he says, long days and pleasant nights, Bart from Belgium.
Thanks, Bart.
Yeah, it has been a pretty good year, I think, for King so far. Obviously, in some ways, it looks like a real King novel out there, which is not necessarily great. But I don't know. We got a new book. We've had The Outsider, which I think is, I don't know, all-time high for TV King.
Yeah.
It's up there for me. Which I know that's a whole different conversation what we talked earlier with movies, but God, The Outsider was good. So it's looking good.
I'd allow The Outsider in that conversation.
I'm just talking if you were to rank TV. I was
saying The Stand in that conversation, so I'd say The Outsider's a part of that conversation.
The Outsider was really good. And I don't know. There's part of me that hopes that we can see another season of that, even though that sounds weird because the book is over, but whatever. It'd still be fun to see. So we'll do one more before wrapping it up. So Tom,
should we play the jingle from last Roundtables episode?
No, we'll give you a break this time.
Hey, you heard it, guys. He's the one that said no.
Lucky for you, I didn't charge the tablet as long as I usually do. I did actually hit it really late. I realized right as I was getting everything prepped for you to come over within the next half hour, 45 minutes. I was like, oh crap, I didn't plug the damn thing in. And I plugged it in, and then it said it had 100% battery. So maybe it was just lying to me. Yeah. So Tom says, hi, all pod slingers.
Kyle
says, can't remember if I've emailed you before, but I know I've been active in the live shows. Panzerpox.
Oh, yeah.
And Twitter, Tom B. Juice, which, definitely familiar with both. Figured now would be as good a time as email to email in, as I just checked the list of Stephen King books I've read, and it was very interesting total indeed. 19 books.
Hey.
Everything is fucking 19, that's just the way it works. He says, with a couple of exceptions, there are nearly all stories that exist within the Dark Tower universe, so I will take that as a sign that I don't need to read any new ones until they're on the level of the tower. Although, I mean, I guess that would still cover you with a lot of good books, but man, there's a lot of great ones that aren't connected to the Dark Tower.
Everything's connected to the Dark Tower.
Directly, I mean, like
everything is directly connected to the Dark Tower.
Not directly. No.
Everything is directly connected to the Dark Tower. You're not going to convince me otherwise.
He says, I will generally reread my favorite books like you, Tad. But this year I did a Goodreads challenge of reading, and he says 19 again, new books, so I didn't have any rereading. I'm however feeling the urge to go through some of the series again, but I can't bring myself to redo Dark Tower 7 yet. Heartbreak emoji, he says in parentheses there.
Yeah.
And he says, have a great Christmas and New Year's. I'm looking forward to seeing what 2020 brings us. From Cy King. All the best. Tom from Brisbane, Australia. P.S. Get some merch or a Patreon going because the show is too well done to do it for free. So, that's thank you. Appreciate that. Definitely. And I don't know, again, check that survey and everyone do the survey and see what we find on that. But yeah, merch is definitely, I actually didn't mention merch on the thing. Maybe I'll update that before I post it. But
there you go.
Definitely want to do that. I know we talked about it at one point, and somebody was asking us about doing it at one point, and then the person kind of stopped contacting me, so I kind of dropped it. But I think that it is something worth looking into.
I'm still saying it. I don't care what happens, but the first shirt that ever comes out of this show, if we make shirts, is going to be #Tad is terrible. That's it. And then a little thing underneath it that says Dark Tower Palaver. That's it. It's all it's going to say. It'll come in a wide variety of colors, but #Tad is terrible.
I mean, I disagree with your I don't know, your whole hypothesis there.
There's no hypothesis. This is scientific fact. This has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. You're terrible.
Hey, I didn't go after Oi in the entire episode today.
For once? Okay, you didn't kill someone today. Good job. But the other 87 times.
This is the first mention of Oi the whole episode, by the way, too.
No, it's not. I mentioned Oi earlier.
Did you? I don't recall you mentioning.
I sure
Oi.
did.
We'll have to review the tape and see here.
I sure did.
What's a tape? All right. So
what's a tape?
So that is the episode. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here as we're getting punchy here. So thank you guys for joining us, everyone, for the closing. If you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on Apple Podcasting and stream us on Stitcher or Spotify. Show notes are at darkttowerpalaver.com. You can find all the articles we read today. I'm trying to think of some of the highlights. I mean, there's a number of them here. Probably the big one, though, is for the survey that I mentioned will definitely be on the show notes, as well as I'll maybe try to get its own tab. Like we have a tab for show notes. We have a tab for the listener questions. Maybe I'll add a tab for this as well, or it'll just be in the show notes. But for sure, it'll be in the show notes, so check it out there. And if you want to contact us, let us know, or do it in a number of ways. Peter will let us know.
Best way to reach us is through email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We stream all of our shows. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications of when we go live. Check us out on Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then also we're on the Twitter. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And also on Instagram, darktowerpalaver, all one word.
Indeed. So next time we will be definitely hitting hard Chris's new infographic, which I haven't necessarily even tipped for you, Peter. I'll at least give you a hint. It does have to do with the hero of the story, Randall Flagg. So
not the hero.
So that'll be a fun conversation. And next time by that time we will have solidified exactly when we're going to do our Shining look. Our episode where we're just basically going to dive into reading The Shining and then watching both versions of The Shining and then just having a Shining
episode.
Yeah, whole I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good word, but it completely escapes me.
So
just
if you want
smorgasbord of The Shining.
So if you want to email us anything about The Shining, if you want to watch with us or read with us, go ahead, get those emails in now so that we can get it in the show, because we're still not starting yet, reading and watching, but that doesn't mean that you have to wait.
Yeah, if you want to jump on or watch The Shining miniseries from the 90s, from the late 90s, and then read The Shining, and then send an email. Just give overall thoughts stuff. I don't know if we're necessarily going to go through and do questions, but I think it's just going to be more of a matter of look at it as its all-encompassing thing of the world of what The Shining is. I mean, it looks like from this episode today we're going to be expanding that a little bit with the Overlook stuff. But The Shining right now exists in 3 forms. And we're not talking Dr. Sleep. That doesn't count at all.
Nope.
We're just talking just The Shining. So we'll announce for sure the date we're going to be doing that next time, as well as the conversation from Chris and stuff, as well as whatever pops up in the news. And then I don't know. We'll see how the surveys go. Maybe there'll be some other things to talk about as well. So until next time, we sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, everyone in the chat, thank you guys for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of people too.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I had
for these guys in the chat, since we're not streaming anymore, I'm going to play the email jingle for them. Oh wait, that was right at the end. Hold on. Hey, I did it without being able to listen to it. All right, I mean, cut me some slack. I'm doing this from.
You're just looking at the whole episode. That's right, because you don't actually have the sound clips. So.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Oh man, you're dropping the ball more than the tablet here that died on us. Yeah. So let me see. Long days and pleasant nights. Thank you, Alan. And yeah, Insomnia is definitely on my list to read. I actually almost read that when I did Dead Zone. So it is on my list for sure.
Can you hear this?
No, I can't hear it in my headphones, so I don't know if they can. I don't know if it's coming through.
Damn, it's not loud enough on my phone.
It's like it's like one of those like recordings of a recording type thing. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us. It was fun. Definitely some good conversation. Always love having you guys with us. It's definitely been one of my favorite additions to the show, and the second half of all of what we've done so far has been adding this live element. And you guys always make it awesome. So thank you guys, and we will see you guys. Sorry for the technical malfunctions. I'm going to look into making sure my hardware is all legit and that it is my ISP that's screwing me. If it is hardware, I'll make sure to get it replaced so we can stop having issues. Although this is only one episode, so who knows?
Yeah.
We didn't have the problem that we had today twice before, so hopefully it's a one-time thing. So see you guys, and long days and pleasant nights.
Bye, guys.